Hello and welcome to the Super Show podcast. It's me, Chris, with Jamie and Jonesy. How you doing, fellas?
Yeah, good, mate. That was almost like a start of like a Jackanory or something for a minute.
I just wanted to just mix it up just a little bit. You know, I'm still saying my kind of like key words there, but I decided to deliver it in a little bit of a different manner. How did it feel? It was good.
It.
I feel relaxed, like you're easing me into this podcasting experience, which is a great way to be.
That's what I like to do. Basically, the effect is that of lube before, you know, the thrust of the game news comes at you.
Yeah,
Fast and Furious.
I've heard that about you.
Yeah.
Chris Lube Joanidis, the lube of the podcasting world.
Jesus.
Imagine if that was like your boxing name. Like, imagine if one of the buffers had to scream at the top of his lungs, Chris Lube Joanidis.
Wow.
I would love to see that live from Vegas.
I mean, I wouldn't love to see that. I wouldn't love to hear that. I wouldn't love any part of it. But that does bring
works
up
as
a
a
very good
boxing
question.
name.
What
Yeah.
would be your kind of like your wrestling call out then?
Oh, God. Do you know what? This is going to sound like I'm patting myself on the back, but it's 100% true. Like when I played rugby, some people would call me, there were two variations of it, and even though they mean two slightly different things, they would kind of, you can see the connection. It was either the bull or the bulldozer. And it was because one time I had to train with a different team, and the first time I trained with them, I just went on a bit of a charging run, if you know, for any rugby aficionados. They just hands all over me, people, you know, grabbing at legs and shit. They just, you know,
Hands all over.
Is it an
me.
orgy
Yeah,
or
so
a
it would
rugby
be
match?
Yeah.
Jamie Hansy McCulloch.
I mean, that was the second option.
Handsy.
Hansy.
So yeah, I don't know if that would. I'm
Bull,
more of a lover than a
bulldozer.
fighter, though. So
I like it. Yeah.
Thank
you could take it further and just call yourself Dozer like fucking Matrix.
Dozer. I was gonna say, yeah, I couldn't remember where that was from. Of course, it's the Matrix. Dozer's a great name. That's
It is
like
great. It's great.
That's one of those ones that where the Wachowskis must have. That's a like, you know, a smile and nod moment when you come up with something like that.
It's like we got it. Go on,
yeah,
Jonesy.
Dozer.
What's yours?
Oh, mine's easy, mate. I think I'd be the pork pie.
Alex the pork pie. What? Because you're like. You would be an incredibly protein-rich, meaty snack, but you're
Because
covered
he's
in an
flaky
outer
on the
layer of
outside
jelly.
and pink on the inside.
No, but with an important layer of jelly that separates the two.
Mate, it's all about the jelly. If you haven't got the jelly, you've got a bad pork pie.
But the jelly is the worst part of the pork pie. I mean,
So I need a proper
don't care if you eat
motivation as to why you are going by pork pie.
I have no idea. It just seemed like a good idea at the time.
Wow.
It's also like, the more I think about this, Jonesy, I actually think you've ruined this whole bit because it's a mouthful, and I don't mean that's not a pun. Like pork pie, haha. Like it doesn't roll off the tongue. Alex the pork pie Jones. Actually, it does.
It
Oh my
does.
god, you're a genius.
It does.
Alex the pork pie Jones.
Alex pork pie Jones.
Oh god, I take back everything I've said. You've like made this bit worthy of the podcast.
Well, hold on.
Alex the pork pie Jones.
Is it because pork pie in itself is just kind of fun to say? And if
Yeah, I think
you
it's
put it
it's
in
part of it.
any
Fun to say,
name,
fun to eat.
does it work? You know, like Boris the pork pie Johnson. It does.
I mean,
It does.
work. It does work.
It just works.
Hideo the pork pie Kojima.
It does.
Something like that.
Yeah, no, it's there. It is there.
I think it's not as bad as like calling someone like a gammon or something, but it still invokes
pork pie.
a meaty snack
Yeah.
with a bit of a short crust outer edge. And like Jamie said, you've still got a bit of tasty, moist jelly in there.
No.
You know,
It's
to just
tasty is questionable.
it's salty, it's moist.
Mate, I don't need to
need
hear.
the
I don't
jelly.
need to hear these words in relation to you as an entity. Okay.
Mate,
Or
you're
is
the lube.
or is
What you're
jelly
about?
more
No, I'm not the
specifically?
lube. That's what Jamie thinks I am, but I am not the
Okay,
lube.
then what are you? What are you then? If you're
I
not
mean,
the
I'm the
lube?
Crispy King, baby.
Chris the Crispy King Journey. Okay, yeah, sure. You could get away with that.
Yeah, I mean, it works.
Yeah.
You know, but then there is Hot Panic, but that doesn't really work as like a call out name.
No.
If we're going by like what I was referred to when I was younger in university, I was called lovingly referred to as Squirry.
Squirry.
Squirry,
What's the
like
origin of
an
that?
affectionate name for a squirrel, right?
Oh, okay. The squirrel. Chris the squirrel. So like you're in the boxing ring like this.
I'll go for your nuts.
Yeah, like what's the Ben Stiller fit where he plays the little squirrel man?
Is it Mystery Men?
Mystery Man, that's it. The hamster.
Yeah.
Was he the hamster?
Something like that.
I've never seen it. I just watched the
Oh, it's a
music
great
video
film.
to All
You gotta-
Star
and it's
by
Smash
Smash
Mouth,
Mouth. Yeah, exactly. That's the only thing I know about it. I think I'd say there's potential. I've just watched that music video like 15 million times.
Yeah, fair enough. It was like constantly on repeat on MTV back in the day, but that's showing my age. Fellas, you know what? It's been really hot lately, and I've been taking some public transport. And, you know, before we get into the gaming side of things, because, you know, fuck you guys, we'll get to the gaming eventually, okay? But I just wanted to say my piece here because it's been hot. I've been taking public transport. A lot of people have been wearing sandals, thongs, flip-flops, whatever you want to call them, in whatever country
Why are they
you're
looking at
coming
their
from.
asses?
No. Like if you're in Australia, they're called thongs, which is the stuff you put on your feet. Okay, it's kind of weird, for sure.
Yeah.
Fine. You do you, Australia, and no one's gonna kink shame you for that one. But do you ever have it that when you are sitting in public transport and someone's got their toes out, that you just count them to make sure that they're all there? I have this compulsion.
No.
I've never done that, honestly. Never.
I thought
You will now.
you
Now that
you
I've
have
said
to
it to
look
you.
away.
No, because like
You're
'cause, you know,
looking
you
at.
kind of you don't know where to look because you got public transport, a tram, a train, a bus full of people, and like you're looking at some people, you're looking at the faces, they look at you, you look away, and you look down at feet, and you see people's shoes, and you think, oh,
No,
those
this
are
is,
nice
this is the
crepes, or-
point at which we separate. When you said you look at the people, they look at you, you look away, you look at their feet. Like what?
No, I'm just saying,
Stop
like
looking.
you know, you're just looking all over, and then
Apparently,
what-
you're looking in one place, mate, and you're counting.
I
Yeah,
am
like how
counting.
long do you have to stare at someone's feet and their toes more specifically to count them as well? Like that's at least. I mean, I'm not going to suggest you take like do a toe per second. It's a 10-second stare, but like if I sat opposite someone on the tube and they were staring at my toes and mouthing numbers, I'd be like,
yeah,
"What the
this is the
fuck
thing. It does get kind of weird when I point and I go 1, 2, 3, 4. What?
No,
No,
I've
it
got
gets
it.
weird when you
I've
get
got
down on
it.
your hands and knees and go, "This will be your market."
That's what I was going to say. It's even better.
And then,
He starts
and
doing
then
the
just,
rhyme.
just as my stop comes up, I go, and this one went wee 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 wee. Give him a little tickle.
Do you tell them if one's missing?
I've
do you
yet
go like-
I've yet to find someone with a missing digit, but
Only 9.
I can't be the only one. I can't be the only one. It is like it fascinates me, and it's a compulsion. Sure, I get it, but like if there's digits there to count, I'm going to count them.
I like the idea that Chris just says to somebody with 9 toes, he just goes, "Where's the last little piggy?" And they're like, "Fuck."
It's in the pork pie, Jones. You know all about it.
Yep.
God,
we go.
Sweeney Todd vibes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that's my little tangent. Do you guys have any kind of weird like public transport things? I know, Jamie, you've got loads.
I mean, public transport things not. I mean, one thing I will say is that I think when it comes to flip flops and sandals and looking at someone's feet, I don't engage in that, and I don't have that same compulsion.
Okay.
But I do probably too far on the other side of, you know, the amount of summer clothing that I own and I'm comfortable wearing, where people probably would start to think it's weird. So I think I've been on the record saying this before, but for example, I don't own a hat of any kind. I don't own sunglasses of any kinds. I don't own sandals or flip-flops of any kinds. I have 2 pairs of shorts, to be fair, and I'm wearing shorts right now when I was outdoors in them earlier. So I've kind of come around on the short side of things, but there is still a large amount of quote-unquote summer clothing that I just won't engage with at all. And I will wear hoodies for way too long. I do that in the winter as well, where I'll try and make a hoodie last when like a proper winter jacket probably should be being worn. I think
you've
I
got-
just
you've
don't
found
think
that,
that's
like
weird.
perfect
As,
equilibrium, as it were.
you say that, but like, look at how much I'm sweating right now. Clearly, nothing in my body is in perfect equilibrium. Like the humidity is fucking me.
So you're a spring/autumn kind of guy.
I think I'm winter, and I just like dealing with the cold.
Interesting.
Okay.
I like.
Well, buddy, thanks to global warming, you'll not have to deal with it for much longer.
No, that's what the part I hate. Because there's a thing with summer. I remember realizing this. I don't know why it took me so long, but it was only about 10 years ago. Sat on a hot summer's day in my living room, and cover your ears for those averse to, you know, disgusting mental images. But I was very nearly naked, and I was sat there just in my underwear in my front room, windows open, fan going, just covered in a layer of sweat, just shining. Like I'd been covered in baby oil or something like that. And I just remember thinking, there's nothing more short of going somewhere air conditioned that I can physically do to cool myself down.
Yeah.
Like I could be good jumping out of cold showers, but realistically, when it comes to like being sat here and doing my thing, I've reached the limit. That never happens in winter. There are always more layers. There's always something you can do, and that's what I respect about winter. Summer's a pussy. Okay, winter's got balls because it's a challenge, but it's one that can be overcome.
No, you see, I think it's the other way.
I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of with Jamie. I'm going to say
I agree with you, but I wouldn't say that like summer's a pussy. I think if anything, by your accounts, it's the other way around because you got to have balls to have to go to the point where there's not much more you can do about it. You just have to deal with it. That separates the men from the children. Fellas.
That's being a dick, though, right? Like
it's
like,
being a dick,
reasonable.
but it's also balls. And as we know, balls are attached to dicks.
Are they technically? Like I don't. They're kind of kind of separate entities. Because like I shouldn't say that out loud.
separate entities. One's around the back and one's on the front. So
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
What was it I heard? Oh, I heard someone the other day talking about. I think it was on some TV show, which was like about a statue that's being put up in a university.
Oh yeah,
and they were talking about how it looks like a guy with his dick sticking out. And the people were complaining because they were like, it's a really phallic statue. And one of the guests on the TV show was complaining because they were saying, at no point does the dick stick out at 90 degrees. And then it got me thinking, hold on, it's got to move through 90 degrees at some point, so, and it's traveling.
Yeah.
So that's what
fair.
a ridiculous thing to say. Twice at least, it's going to go through 90 degrees, once on the way up and once on the way down. So what's this guy on about? And now Jamie has raised an equally, thought-provoking thing, which is, what technically are the balls connected to the dick, or is it just that it's almost like a roundabout. Two roads lead off the roundabout. They're not technically connected, but they're connected by geometry.
Yeah, it's like a fork where your balls go one way and your dick goes the other.
Yeah. But if anyone has a medical degree, if you could let us know in the comments down below. Technically,
the thing I was going to say, and like this is probably too graphic. I apologize, okay, but I'm just going to say it, is like you can cup the balls and like scoop the balls in such a way where the penis ends up looking like a relatively individual entity. Like if you let's say you
could pull him that way.
Yeah, like if you pulled your. I was trying to avoid like any kind of tension or torsion, but like yeah, if you pulled them in such a way, like yeah.
No,
Yeah,
see,
like,
I don't like that analogy because okay, are a dog's ears on its head?
Yes.
But if you like do that thing where you put your hand on your dog's head and then like put its ears down and pull it back, you can make it look like it's got no ears. So I don't like that. I don't like that.
True. Plus, like the dick is a weird thing anyway because sometimes like it's like where does it actually start? Like, do you know? Like, because there's the bit that you can see, there's the bit that's out there,
Mate,
breathing the fresh air, but like it goes way further inside. Like you could tell me like your penis is like a foot long and starts at your hip bone, and I'd be like, oh okay.
Do you know what? Interestingly, there is please don't go and get this, anybody. There is a surgery that they can do. I think this was on one of those shows, like have you ever seen the show?
Alex
in
Jones
the UK?
doing research. Oh, it was on one of those shows.
I'm pretty sure it was on the show in the UK that we have, which is it called Embarrassing Bodies? Where it's like someone goes to the doctor.
Oh yeah,
Dr. Christian
on TV. It's on like a massive terrestrial television station, and they get naked, and they'll be like, my butt feels like it's falling off, and they'll be like, bend over, and then the cameraman's in there, and they show everything. And I'm pretty sure in one episode there was someone talking about like saying, oh, I'm embarrassed, I've got like my dick's not very big, and they were talking about the fact that they can go in and cut some tendons, which kind of holds it. Like so imagine the skin is here and the dick is here, right? Like as Chris is saying, and if they cut the tendons, it kind of does that.
Oh.
Right, yeah.
Because it kind of falls out a little bit more.
Why shouldn't we get that surgery, Jonesy? Why are you trying to like shame people out of getting it?
If you want to get it, but don't rush out and get it, because do you know what? It doesn't actually make any functional difference, because when it gets excited, you lose the extra length. It goes away again. Because the way that it then sits, you don't actually gain any extra size. Yeah, but so don't rush out and get it. It's just for look. It's not.
I still think there's something to that. Like some people are far more. Some people, I think, most men are far more insecure about showing than growing. And so, if you're dealing with just the showing problem, then that is still
if you're in the the gym locker room and you're you want to cut those tendons, get it.
Can I close this off with a little bit of a few words of wisdom from one Bon Jovi? Yeah.
Go on.
I'm trying to think where this is going to go, but yeah, go for it.
So he was once interviewed about the size of his penis for whatever reason. I don't know why I remember this, but it's kind of stuck in my head. And he said his penis is like how did he say it? Like Aladdin's lamp. Right? And he said it's not much to look at, but you got to give it a bit of a rub and you get the genie. And I just thought that's a nice way of looking at it. And ever since then, I've been secure, with my micro penis, that when you touch it, it turns into a horse dong.
Imagine being in an interview with a female singer and saying, "How deep is it?"
Jesus.
Well, who's
Taking a
asking
turn.
Bon Jovi? Who's asking Bon Jovi how big it is? Like, how is that?
I agree with you.
Oh, I
It's,
see.
it's wrong on either side of the
How
chromosomal
about you
divide.
don't ask people about their pants region when you're giving them an interview?
Well, I'll tell you what. Today I saw Tommy Lee's dick. So
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
You're
Random
watching,
Tommy
you're
Lee.
going back through the classics, trying to find some inspiration.
no, literally, it was his latest tweet.
Well,
Oh,
he
is
just had
he
it out.
tweeted out a picture of his dick?
Mate,
James
yeah.
gone straight for the phone. Look, he's there. He's like,
Please look it up.
oh,
so-
it's about
what,
80
just
years
Tommy,
old
just
now.
Tommy Lee's Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know. Just search Tommy Lee; it'll come up because he's.
Oh yeah,
verified.
he's tweeted a picture of himself completely naked. Wow, I don't know what I was expecting. I thought
How
he'd be
old is
clothed.
he? Oh,
I thought he'd be
okay.
clothed
Now-
and
now I
you'd
feel
see the
left out.
outline. I thought you'd see an imprint of
No,
his penis.
it's just-
but no,
it's just his dick.
Tommy Lee has taken advantage of Twitter's somewhat lax view on nudity by just being like, "Here's my penis."
Here's my dick.
Do you
And
know
he's-
what's
hey,
great? My brain, whenever you say Tommy Lee, it can't get away from Tommy Lee Jones. I know they're not the same person.
That's
but I
amazing.
Thank God
yeah,
Tommy
Tommy
Lee
Lee
Jones-
tweeted a picture of his dick.
Imagine. I think that was the
the
original
memes.
ending of
Men in
no Country for Old Men.
He just gets his
Look
dick
at my
out and
penis.
takes a picture of it.
Yeah. Oh, Javier
Someone's-
Bardem actually got his Anton Chigurh gets his penis out in front of those two kids, and then he gets arrested by Tommy Lee Jones.
Someone shared a great meme, which is Pikachu doing Pikachu shocked face with the shadow of a dick over his face.
Oh,
Tommy
God.
Lee showing his dick.
Don't
Go
How
on,
old
go on,
is
Jonesy.
Tommy Lee?
Let's get your
put it
reaction there.
don't put it in
Do you
your
know what?
underwear. Yeah, that's your lucky penis. Don't put
He
it in
looks
your underwear.
younger than I thought he would.
Yeah. It's all the drugs,
Yeah,
man. The thing about like hardcore drugs like heroin or whatever is like it either keeps you like super young or just absolutely fucking destroys you. But I think
Yeah.
the thing about keeping you super young is like maybe like 1 in 1,000 or something.
Maybe.
Oh, like,
you see
yeah,
other
but
people just look.
They're
haggard.
gonna do an autopsy on Mick Jagger and be like, oh yeah, it turns out heroin was the reason he could still literally sprint around on stage in his 80s or whatever he is. Like maybe we should. It turns out in moderation, heroin, it's good stuff.
Good stuff. You heard it here first.
Everything in moderation.
You know what else people will hear first? Not the gaming news, because by the time we get to it, I would have heard about 5 different podcasts. But hey, we do our best, okay? And when I say we do our best is week on week, we get worse and worse at delivering gaming news to your earlobes. And we are doing that through the medium of social media and the internet and Web 3.0 and NFTs and CBDs and GBH
HIVs?
and Ket. Okay. Basically,
Oh, yeah.
what I'm saying is we are available on YouTube if you want to look at our lovely faces, but we are also available on all major podcasting platforms of your choice. I'm talking Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and something I didn't realize, but iHeartRadio is actually a pretty big player, fellas. You wouldn't think it, and they are making inroads to try and get into the metaverse to be the podcasting platform of choice while you are digitally smoking some meats with the Zuck. So there you go.
Nice.
I want to smoke some meats.
I'm sure you do, pork pie.
You
can also look-
circle. That's comedy, folks.
Zing! You can also catch us on Paisley Radio, Thursdays at 10 p.m., paisleyradio.com for a repeat of the show live, kind of, like in a live format, but a week later. We call it Live 3.0, NFT GmbH HIJ. So check it out. Fellas, how about we kick this off with some anti-competitive news, because we're an anti-podcast, if anything, right?
Yep.
made up
Oh,
by
right.
And the Anticast.
the Anticast. Yeah, that's that sounds like vaguely
like,
biblical. I don't know.
I was thinking it sounded like almost I don't know, like weirdly political. Like it sounded like something that might have existed in like the late 1930s, early 1940s in certain European nations.
Okay, fair enough. Yes. Okay, moving on. Fellas,
The Anticast.
it should be no surprise to
The
long-time listeners.
Anticast.
It should be no surprise to long-time listeners of the show. I'm moving on. I'm ignoring you. That we
With
love
pay.
we love a good deal here on the Super Show, don't we?
We do.
Absolutely.
And what is the best deal in gaming, fellas? Hashtag non-spawn.
Game Pass.
Game
Tasteful
Pass.
Game Pass.
Hell yeah. So Game Pass, as we all know, is absolutely insane value for money. Microsoft has yet to pay us for saying as much week on week. But hey, someday, hopefully. But in the meantime, someone who doesn't want to know anything about the greatest deal in gaming is Sony, fellas, because Sony is basically claiming that the Activision acquisition is anti-competitive. Surprise, surprise. They're a bit butthurt about the fact that it might be going down. So let's get into it, okay? Because recently there was some kind of like, I guess, a hearing or something with they're called the CADE, but effectively it's Brazil's version of like the Anti-Competition Commission, whatever it is, okay? And basically Microsoft was responding to claims, Sony's claims specifically, that its ongoing attempt to acquire Activision Blizzard would be anti-competitive, especially when it came to Call of Duty. So, if you want to read into it, Sony wants Call of Duty and they're just really fucking shit scared that Microsoft's not going to put it on PlayStation. Right?
This
Fair enough,
this
sir?
is like when you're picking teams at school, who's going to be on your football team, and they just pick the big kid who's really good, and you're like, I don't want them to have them. I wanted them. That's not fair. And it's like, I mean, you're just picking. It's their turn to pick. That's fair, right? And you're like, no.
Jonesy, it all's fair in rugby when the one team picks Dozer. I mean, you've won, right? That's just
It
how
is.
goes.
It's like picking Jamie at rugby. That is exactly what it's like. And then the other team don't like it.
There we go.
They
Yeah,
don't want to get dozed.
So look, as a response to this, what Microsoft did is they kind of reached out to numerous third parties, including Ubisoft, Bandai Namco, and they effectively like got their opinion on the whole thing. And Sony was the only company of the third parties that Microsoft reached out to that claimed Call of Duty was a genre in its own with no competition, which is I can kind of get, but also kind of not.
Nah.
It's a weird one.
It is a weird one. But then Microsoft goes on to state that Sony doesn't want to see Call of Duty games on Game Pass on day one because it is resentful of having to compete with Microsoft's subscription service. And these are quotes here, okay? Sony does not want attractive subscription services to threaten its dominance in the digital distribution market for console games because, they are kind of like killing it at the moment. So, in other words, Sony rails against the introduction of new monetization models capable of challenging its business model. So, if anything's like anti-competition, surely it's this way around?
It makes Sony look, if not anti-competitive, then anti-change, right? Like there's this idea of actually we like things the way they are, and we like them because they've been very good to us when it's come to selling hardware and obviously selling software, like in part and parcel with that. And that's what this is all about, right? This is Sony coming from a position where they can create exclusive titles and launch franchises and maintain and hold on to intellectual property that shifts, in some cases, tens of millions of units. Microsoft couldn't do that, moved in the opposite direction, and I think it's very notable that it's taken this push for Sony to now care about a Microsoft kind of effort that has been ongoing for years. Like Game Pass has been going on for years. Microsoft have been moving in this direction for the years, and now Sony are panicking. Now Sony are like, Microsoft are making the kind of moves that could threaten our business model, which has been very cushy for us for so long.
Yeah, right. Because effectively what they've done is they've brought the publisher to the number one game year on year on year. So fair play.
Yeah, exactly.
So all part of this has also been shown that Sony is it's been alleged that Sony has actively tried to hamper Games Pass growth by paying certain developers for blocking rights in in return for them agreeing not to add their content to Game Pass. In other words, hey, we'll give you this bunch of money if you agree to just not sign up with Game Pass. Which again, that sounds pretty anti-competitive to me.
I don't think that does. I think that you can get to a point where it's like, I think that it is anti-competitive and it's unfair, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't think there's an issue if Call of Duty goes into Game Pass. I don't think there's an issue if Sony pay to like block certain publishers from, or if they pay a publisher to not put their stuff onto Game Pass. If you're not, like, if they're not going to go after like Nintendo and say, hey, Nintendo, you're anti-competitive because we want to put Animal Crossing onto our platforms. Like, if you're going to let them do whatever the hell they want, and then you're not really, it's not about the fact that you're annoyed that there's a whole genre that you can't get to and you're saying it's unfair. It's just because you're worried about impacting your sales of a specific game, which is, of course, exactly what they're really talking about. But if Microsoft are making moves and they're, you know, being smart, yeah, I don't see how you can make the argument that it's unfair because it's Call of Duty. That's so weird to me.
Yeah, like, and you know, on Microsoft's behalf, Phil Spencer's come out saying like it would make no sense in terms of revenue to keep Call of Duty off of other platforms, and he's absolutely right. Like, it's such a moneymaker. It's such a moneymaker that keeping it, even as a console exclusive for a year, it doesn't make financial sense for them to do that. And you know what, Phil's a decent guy, but he's also a smart guy, and I'm sure he's a ruthless businessman. And if money's on the table, like that's what's going to need to happen, right?
I could see instances where anti-competitive would make sense if, for example, there was some weird legal thing whereby any first-person shooter was, you know, technically Sony owned the rights to it, and then they banned anyone else from going anywhere near an entire genre. But this, again, like, it's not, you can say it's a genre, but that's bollocks. You can, if you want to say it's Battle Royale is the genre, like they're talking about that, it's like, okay, it wasn't even the first. Yeah. It's not the only one. There are loads of other ones. If you want to say it's multiplayer online shooters, it's like, again, there are loads of them. I mean, what are you talking about?
But this is
how do they frame that as its own genre? You just mean it's too big.
I think it's kind of that thing of like, it's not literally saying, is Call of Duty an FPS, yes or no? It's, does Call of Duty have such a big and such a committed player base that it essentially functions in a way where there are now tens of millions of players who don't see there being an alternative to Call of Duty? Like, there's nothing else that they can replace Call of Duty with, and in that sense, it's become its own genre. Like, if you took 20 million Call of Duty fans and said, what would you buy if you couldn't buy Call of Duty? How many of them would say Battlefield, and how many of them would say nothing? And if a lot of them are saying nothing, then Call of Duty has kind of ascended beyond FPS and become its own genre to the point that it can't be replaced. And that's what I think the implication is.
But so that gets interesting, because then if you want to say like, okay, that it's too big, it's a Goliath or whatever, there's, yeah, like you said, no one's going to replace it with anything else. That starts to get weird, because then you say, okay, what about FIFA? FIFA is absolutely massive. It's the only kid on the block doing what they're doing. So then you get to weird situations where you're like, does that mean that they should take FIFA, chop it in two, so that the company, you know, often they do with companies where they'll say like, oh,
break it up
Meta
so
can't own Facebook, and they've done it with Microsoft before, where they said Microsoft can't own Windows and own this. It's like, if they were really going that far down that rabbit hole, are they going to take Call of Duty take Activision Blizzard and say, no, the Battle Royale part has to be one company, and the the campaign part has to be another company? FIFA, do you have to say that the online section of FIFA is one company and it's not owned? But it gets so fucking weird, man. Like, I think we avoid that weirdness by all unanimously agreeing that it's not like a genre in and of itself, right? Like. Yeah, they're just trying it, man. It's like when what's her face, who's the singer, Taylor Swift. Oh. Taylor Swift tried to license. Was it "Shake It Off" or something else? Like, she tried to license every phrase she's ever used in a song, and some of them are like, "I'm hot," or some weird shit I can't remember. And it's you can't just license phrases. Like, what are you doing? I think it's Sony are trying to do one of them.
It is kind of mental, and it does kind of come across as just a little bit petty on Sony's behalf. Like, look, we're not Sony fanboys, Xbox fanboys, either side of the kind of fucking Rubicon there. We are game fans. We like games, and we like all games on all platforms, and it's just kind of like, it just doesn't come across very nicely like reading this kind of stuff. It just almost feels like, oh, but I don't want to play with that other toy because it's less popular. I want the popular toy, and I want it. Like, why can't I have it? It's like, well, you didn't pay for it. So
Can I play devil's advocate for the two of you?
Please do.
Is there an angle where you could argue that Sony are just trying to protect their the people who own the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4, and they're saying we don't want a possible future situation whereby they are unable to play certain games because we think that would be
but why would they say that, Trinity? The only reason they'd say that is because they're concerned about the sales, right?
So if they pulled COD or future COD games off of the PlayStation, there's, I suppose, could you say devil's advocate? They're just trying to protect people that own the PlayStation. I mean, it's a bit of a weak argument, even so, because
I feel like they've done that, but the other way around. They pulled Cyberpunk from the store because they felt it is not a great. Eventually, it's not a great experience for users on PlayStation, so they pulled it from the store.
Because they didn't want to give refunds.
I think the other way around is maybe like less likely. It's purely because they just don't want to miss out on the revenue, right? Like you're saying like the game that's like number 1, number 2 each year in the charts, and all of a sudden they can't have it. Of course they're gonna freak out.
Yeah, like I think it's a little bit of that. It's like that kind of, and it's also just probably because there's also, I'm sure there are people within Sony that are a little bit like, maybe regretful, right? Like that this was a market and an opportunity in a space that they didn't think there'd be much growth in, or that they thought that their business model was so secure that they didn't need to acknowledge the growth in. And it's maybe not necessarily caught up faster than they thought it would, but it's becoming more of a clear and present danger in a faster way than they perhaps anticipated early on. But fundamentally, I think Sony would be slightly concerned if there was a risk of Call of Duty going exclusive to Microsoft-owned platforms in the future. I don't think Sony would be happy about that. But I don't think there's a version of Sony that's actually worried about the impact a growth in Games Pass will have on their business model. I don't think there's much of a correlation, for example, between, Microsoft completing this acquisition and putting a future Activision title on Game Pass and the impact that will have on sales of Spider-Man 2. I don't think that those dots are connected. And I think in the sense there's probably an element here of this is just not quite posturing, but this is just Sony doing what they almost need to do to look after them, like a small form of self-preservation, even if it's like knowingly fighting a losing battle. Sometimes that's what happens in these weird sort of like corporate sort of slightly competitive scenarios. I don't think they expect this to sway anyone, and
I've got a question.
I'm almost just surprised at how much Microsoft are willing to get the claws out and make allegations about what Sony are doing to be arguably equally as anti-competitive or to halt their progress. Which does make Sony look a little bit petty. Like imagine, sorry.
No, sorry, go on.
I was going to say Sony themselves, who now have a subscription service, or Sony could be spending money to improve the product and the service they provide PlayStation owners, but they're spending money diminishing the product and the service that Xbox owners get, and like that's not a great public look.
Yeah, it's not.
If that's true,
I've got a theory here, fellas. Let's get your take on it, okay? What if Sony's idea for all of these different PlayStation Plus tiers hasn't necessarily worked out in the way that they wanted to, and now this is almost like a follow-on step from that?
I don't see how it could be. I don't think they thought the tiers system and the upper tiers were going to be something that would swing any needles about who's going to be getting PlayStation over Xbox. I don't think they thought it was going to do that.
But you don't see a world where it could be they were expecting a much bigger uptake. The uptake is really low, and now they're kind of reeling from it, and they're thinking, well, if we try to be a competitor in our own way to what Game Pass was, even though they said they're not competing, that they're swinging the other way and saying, well, if you can't join them, fucking beat them, right? Like that kind of thing.
Honestly, I don't think there's enough evidence that, and maybe this is me just sort of like passing on my opinions on PlayStation Plus in the form of fact, but I don't think Sony have put enough effort into their new PlayStation Plus restructuring to say, you know, with any confidence that they kind of gave it a go and tried to create something and then were disappointed by it.
It's still been early doors for sure.
Yeah, but like, look, we're about to get the second batch of new additions to come to PlayStation Plus Premium and Extra landing in the next week or so. And you look at the list, it's like the Yakuza games that were already on Game Pass, Bugsnax that was a PlayStation Plus title at some point, Metro Exodus
Bugsnax is going on Game Pass soon as well.
I think it might already be. Yeah. Metro Exodus is no longer on Game Pass, but was on Game Pass for a long time. Like, there is a feeling that Sony are already at the point where they're like just picking up the scraps, so to speak, from publishers that are happy to have their games on subscription services rather than going out and finding unique, cool things. And like, yeah, I don't know.
I think as well, like if you look at wider economy, society at the moment, like people are all feeling the squeeze. Consumers are struggling a little bit, and it's just going to get worse. And I think we say it probably too often, but when you can look at the fact that you can get Game Pass, and you can effectively say, do you know what, I'm going to get that, and it's the cost of one game for a year basically, and then I don't have to worry about not being able to afford like new titles. I don't think Sony come anywhere near with their new offerings to even make people question, because people are still going to know I need to go out and buy all the new PlayStation 5 exclusives if I want to buy them. And when they're looking down the barrel of like $70 games and they're looking at 5 or 6 titles in a year, like, you know, I don't think Sony thought that what they did was going to challenge that by any stretch. It's all, I'd be surprised if they did. You know my feelings on this, in that it's all going to be 5 to 10 years. Everything's going to be cloud-based anyway. It's all going to be subscription services. There's going to be no hardware, but we're not there yet, and Sony have not done anywhere near enough to.
Well, yeah, Sony's not done enough, but Microsoft, funny enough, they're pushing for it, Jonesy.
Yeah, no, they are. They're the ones who are moving in that direction. It's funny, actually, because I say that, but then, do you know what? My kids this week have played loads of streamed games through the PlayStation, but it's not called Now anymore, but, you know, through the streamed game service on PlayStation. And you know, so they've got something there. But they already had that. They already had PlayStation Now. They've just rolled the two things together. But if they really want to compete with Games Pass, it's got to be God of War Day One is free on Sony, whatever it's called, on the top tier.
Yeah.
And then, as you
they're
said,
never going to do that.
No, they're never going to do it. And
you're right.
do you know what? Everyone would sign up for it.
Yeah,
you watch all the people sign up to it, but then because they're not going to do it, it's like, well, then, you know, if you're not going to do it, don't worry about it. You and Xbox are in different places. Don't worry about it.
One's playing baseball, other one's playing basketball. Simple.
Yeah, what I was going to say, next week, what you'll see is Sony are going to come out and they're going to push God of War Ragnarok to the 11th of November just to piss off Microsoft.
Yeah. Announcing a one-day delay to take the artist formerly known as Starfield's release date.
Yeah. Well, funny that you mentioned God of War. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And I don't know. It's just like, it's a head scratcher, and I kind of feel bad for Sony sometimes, because if sometimes I hear this stuff and I hear, oh, where did this happen? Brazil? Oh, okay. And it's almost like makes me think that Sony of Brazil are the ones that are kind of like spearheading this, and Sony.
It's one Japan, guy in an office in Brazil.
Yeah, like it's just like fucking Zhao in the fucking Rio de Janeiro, just kind of like kicking off. Whereas like, then you got whatever executive in Japan being like, did you know about this fucking Zhao guy?
Zhao's fucking us up.
Zhao's fucking
He said, what?
That would be so fun, man. That would be super fun. I feel sorry for Zhao, even if he, even if he thought it was a good idea at the time, and he's getting ripped.
Oh. I was just trying to protect the brand.
Was that your Brazilian?
What would my Brazilian be? No, I can't do a Brazilian.
Well, remember, it's got
we have a Brazilian.
There was a lot of kind of almost like Scouse style noises.
Wow, we have a Brazilian Discord person, don't we? Someone on Discord's Brazilian, I think so.
A Hood, right? Like, isn't he like half German, half Brazilian or something?
No,
I mean, Hood, I apologize, Hood, if that's completely wrong.
I think he lives in Switzerland, I thought.
No, I thought there's someone else. I thought someone else was Brazilian. Okay. But do they have a Portuguese accent? I guess not, because it's like... they speak Portuguese, but
they speak Portuguese. It's probably got different
like
elements to it.
Like, kind of thing.
Like the only thing I know is from MMA and football specifically is some of the way like name pronunciation stuff. Like one of the things that Chris already touched on is that J's are hard. So like Like you wouldn't get a Jose from Portugal or from Brazil. It would always be like Jose Mourinho or João Moutinho.
You said that, and I suddenly just thought like of Chris Cyborg's like roided up voice. Like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Yeah, like.
Yeah. There's also a weird thing where like they don't pronounce. I don't know if there's a Brazilian thing or what, but they don't pronounce R's in names, and like. It gets it gets changed like an H sound, yeah. And there's a guy called Wilson Hayes in the UFC, but his surname was spelt like Reis, but they would call him Hayes. It's very, very unusual, and I can't elaborate that on that any further because I'll say something stupid or wrong or both. But
and that's what this podcast is here for. Come on, if anything.
Yeah. I heard an interesting. Who was it was telling me? So because I know, so my wife's cousin, I think he's married to a Brazilian, and he lived out there for a long time, and I think he's still out there now, and they owned a house out there and stuff. And I think she was telling, so it's like a second-hand story, but whereby this Brazilian girl was over in the UK and she was chatting to someone who was then telling my wife something, which was that. So I don't know if this is true, but don't get overexcited. Everyone listening, they were saying that apparently in Brazil there's like a real lack of straight guys. Like single straight guys. So they were like, if you go on holiday as a single straight guy to Brazil, then you could do very well with the holiday romances.
So make sure you get lubed up is all I'm saying.
I have no idea if that's true or not, but I was like, because Brazilian women are supposed to be like very beautiful women and stuff as well. I was like, that can't be true. Where have they gone? Like, what have the dudes just left?
Maybe it's just the case that like no assumptions here, but maybe Brazilian women are thirsty. And it's like, okay, any guy that goes there, it's just like, okay, well, there's some fresh meat.
I just think the Brazilian tourism board's working overdrive and you fall for it.
Yeah. I'm not going.
There was it Vegas who actually did that as an advertising run? Like they put billboards up in London and it was words to the effect of go to Las Vegas where your accent is an aphrodisiac. Like basically saying like travel to America to get laid.
There were ads on the tube. I remember that. That's mental. Yeah. Never thought of it that way, but you're right. It's kind of creepy.
I'd say it was a friend of ours. I won't say his name, but if you remember, he went to China and he happens to be particularly tall. And for a while, he did refer to himself as someone who was well known in China because everywhere he went, people would like take pictures of him.
Famous in China.
And, and because he said they were so like, what the heck?
Yes.
Yeah. My uncle's like 6'5", 6'6", and he worked in the Philippines for a little while.
In the Philippines as well. Jeez.
Yeah. Wow. I gather it's a pretty similar experience.
Did he come back with a Filipino wife?
No, he still has his English wife.
I was going to know they shot him on sight. They were like, "Get out!" and just started shooting him. I'm a dude.
I've got a great bit of trivia about the Philippines for you.
Okay, go on.
You ready? And this may be a bit racial, but it is a story related by Filipinos. Okay, so you know the film Finding Nemo.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember the pair of goggles? Well, it's not goggles, like scuba mask.
Oh, scuba mask. Yeah.
Do you remember the name that was written on it?
Yes.
Go on.
P. Sherman. Something P. Sherman.
P. Sherman. Okay. How about this? So, if you watch the credit roll of Finding Nemo, a lot of a fair amount of the names you're going to see there are Filipino. A lot of kind of like Filipino technical artists and 3D artists worked on the film. And the way that, apparently, this is what I read, the way that Filipinos say that the letter F is a P.
Yep.
Okay?
Oh, because it's like Filipino.
Filipino,
That's
okay. So if you take P. Sherman, and if you change P to F...
F. Sherman.
F. Sherman. Fee Sherman.
For Sherman. For sure, man.
Fisherman. So apparently that's how Filipino people say. It's like a joke, like an in-joke for Filipino people. They're like, F. Sherman, yeah. Very funny.
Yeah, weird. Interesting. That's like one of those things where they hid sex or whatever it is in the sky and Lion King?
Yeah. Nice.
I think it was Lion King. Like the animators like put little cheeky things in.
Yeah. So I'm thinking this might be a recurring theme. Our partially racial approved story of the week. What do you think?
Partially racial.
I know someone Filipino, so I can get a second opinion on this if we need to, and then it could be slightly less racial.
Please
Yeah,
do.
we
you
can
go.
check.
If you get slapped, just report it back. Then we know to never do the segment ever again. But if it's okay, then maybe we'll find the next factoid. Racial
This
factoid
segment has
of the
been
week.
Filipino approved.
It's going to stamp on screen.
Yeah, dunk.
Well, fellas, it might not be Filipino approved, but this podcast is patron approved. Approved by our Patreons who went to patreon.com/Super Show and supported us with their kind monetary donations. For as little as $2, they got access to our Discord server, and so can you. $5 gets you access to a whole bunch of behind the scenes podcasts, Patreon exclusive podcasts, some. I've lost my train of thought here, fellas. Help me out. What do we got? What do we got there?
What else we got? Not making a murderer. What is it called?
Known Murderers. the
Known
podcast.
Murderers.
A bunch of unaired
Behind the
pilots from
scenes.
ATG days. Our Let's Play of The Quarry, which, fellas, we need to get together soon and record part 2. But yes, that's all there. If you head on over to patreon.com/shoop. I'm slurring now. I'm a drunk. Super Show. Patreon.com/Super Show. Like that. Thank you very much. Go, pledge your support, and make the Super Dream, Super Show. What's happening? Am I having a stroke? What's happening, fellas?
Maybe.
Can you
are.
smell toast?
No.
I'm dying.
Almonds I can smell.
Almonds. Lovely.
Almonds, yeah.
Yeah. Keep the cameras rolling. Keep the lights on. Support us over on patreon.com. And on screen right now, you can see some names of people that have done just that exact thing. I'm talking about Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy, Bill Caesar, Brimstone, Cole K, I Snort Rock Salt, Jesper Camdal Nielsen, Leo Murger, Mindful Pig, Mr. Anthropic, Nathan Piers, Pastors Guild, of course, the big daddies themselves, Brett Z, aka Shellshock, Doppler, Geometric Potter, Hacksaw Bookread, Manuel Guerrero, and of course, Peaswad. I said it before, I'll say it again, the one and only. So, first of all, thank you so much to everyone who has pledged your support. We really do appreciate it. We keep on coming back week on week, except for that 1 week that we weren't able to, because of you. So thank you, one and all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, fam.
Fam. Well, fam and fellas, while I recover from my stroke, how about a little bit of a cheeky comment of the week?
I like it.
Comment of the week.
Oh, there we go.
There it is. Nice. Okay.
We've been looking for a jingle. We found it.
Yeah, nice and easy. Sometimes the simplest jingles are the best. And this week it's coming from Slick1977. Good to see Jonesy back. Way, there he is. I really hope you finish your Let's Play of The Quarry. Well, we got to do that then. It was such it was such a laugh to watch you. Would love to see more Let's Plays if possible. Even reviews or watch parties. Definitely could see you guys with your own Netflix or Prime show. Also, merch needed. Well, there's a lot to unpack here. Let's start with The Quarry.
Yeah.
Right? We got to do it.
Yeah, we
I
have.
mean, yes,
we
yeah.
have got to do. Yeah, part 2. Part 2 coming soon.
Yeah, I'm thinking...
Coming sometime.
yeah, coming soon. TM, which is Super Show Speak for. Yeah, probably sometime this year.
Here's why I'm thinking about it, is that I don't think us three will meet up again at Jonesy's house without filming another episode of The Quarry. So, like, the guarantee is that if the stars align for us to physically be together in a place where we can film, then there'll be more.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I just wonder if, I wonder if the Let's Play is the way to go. Maybe we should just stream it and then have it as a pod.
Yeah, we nearly did that last time. It's usually me that throws my toys out the pram whenever we kind of contemplate streaming something rather than filming it.
Yeah, you just get hot and sweaty, but,
I do.
What else is new?
Exactly. We're recording this and then look at me.
What about, reviews, watch parties? I mean...
I would love, Joel, I'd love to do reviews. That's something that's the thing I started watching back in the day. First thing online when I used to watch video game content was reviews. But it's such a bloated
but Joe,
area.
didn't we say this before? We need to do reviews. And that'll be our
we did
shtick,
say that, yeah.
Right? But technically, you are reviewing the game with your view, but held up against someone else's view. I think that's fair. I think that's a nice way of doing it.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we said we'd look at the reviews other people have done and take them, agree, disagree, take them apart. But Yeah, I don't know. There's danger there as well, because if we get called out for saying something really stupid, it's
Mate,
like,
if the one thing that Top Gun Maverick has taught me is you got to live in the danger zone.
that's true. Also, if you do a review, I'd say what's interesting about that is you can effectively end up with a rating, but rather than have games rated at like, this is the best game, this is the worst game, you end up with like, these are the most accurate places that we agree with, these are the least accurate. So you end up with, certain people say, oh, we always
and then what we do is we pull a Fine Brothers and we trademark review.
That I'm down for.
Yeah,
that's dollar signs, baby.
That's big brain.
I guess
big brain.
my concern with that would be, and this gets into the usual rhetoric. That
I know what his concern. I know what his concern is. As someone who's in the gaming industry, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
I mean, I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, sure, that's a fair point.
Jamie gets called into the big office on the 20th floor, and they're like, "We've just been checking out some of your content."
Oh god, yeah, I'm going to leave that. No, I was going to say, one, you kind of get into that territory of like, and people shit on me for the saying this, but I love saying it because it's true. Like, how can you end up like finding that? I don't know, you've got to be careful when so many places are publications or websites that don't host reviews written by the same people. So it's like,
oh, very true, yeah.
And the other thing I do slightly worry about with that is that, let's say we started reviews and it was open-ended with regards to who could sort of spearhead it and who could write it out of us three. And let's say, for the sake of argument, Jonesy was like, I'm super enthusiastic about this, I'm going to do loads of them. And we did 10. And it was like, Jonesy, we've looked back on it, like, every video is just you saying you really agree with this person who you see the world the same way as, and really disagree with these people you don't say. And so it ends up being like 10 videos of like, hey, it turns out once again, Skillup and I agree on this one.
As we said it, I thought the exact thing, which is the problem with those would be we never agree. That's
also true. Yeah,
they'd have a game come out.
What if it was reviews where we all review a game, but that's not what gets published. We hand our review around to one of the other people in this group. The person that receives it reviews that review, and that's what we publish.
I love it. This is workshopping here. We're building out a product. I love it.
What about like what Jamie said, but we do it. That is the video, right? So it's almost like a angel and demon, like heaven and hell kind of thing, where you have the person who's most into it and the person who's least into it. You almost do a pros and cons, like love-hate review, where it has two opposite sides, and one person is, I guess, the arbiter to decide which way it goes. So if let's say they had a new Breath of the Wild 2 comes out, so you've got Chris is there saying, "Oh, look, it's the best game ever made, and isn't the open world so lush and green?" And then there's me going, "Oh, it's fucking grass."
I reckon Breath of the Wild 2 is not going to be all that. I'm just going to put that out there now. Well, funny that you should say this though, Jonesy, because weren't we considering developing a strand on ATG about this very thing?
That was before ATG. I remember being sat in an office in central London when the closest thing to all-time gaming was ham and cheese gaming, and talking about we were going to dress it up as a sort of like a courtroom procedural with a defense and a prosecution and a judge.
One person would be a judge. Yeah.
Yes.
But that was one of the first ideas we ever had.
And then the second idea, do you guys remember?
Wheel of Fish.
Wheel of Fish.
Yeah.
You wait now. In the comments, everyone is crying out for Wheel of Fish. They're like, "What the hell is that?"
I was gonna mention this to you guys. Like, don't ask me what this means. I don't know. But I thought of you both the other day. Where you know how Hotline Pammy became a thing that we said it once and we didn't know what it was, but we kept coming back around. It almost emblematic, like it stood for something. We didn't know what it meant, but it kind of meant something. The other day, I was talking to my friend and I kept making the same typo and typing out Cane and Lunch. And I was thinking that could be
Cane and Lunch.
Hold on.
Lunch. Yeah.
This writes itself, right? We need a new channel. We need to rename the channel Ham and Cheese Gaming, and then we need food puns around every game that comes out. Hotline Miami, Cane and Lunch. I can't think of any more.
Go on.
Shadow of the Colossausage.
What was that?
Shadow of the Colossausage.
That's terrible. That's really shocking.
Oh, Cod of War.
Cod of War.
Yep.
Biochocolat.
That's the best one, yeah.
Starring Johnny Depp.
Biochocolat. That's very good.
I like it. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, if any of those sound cool, let us know in the comments down below, and we'll feign trying to do them and never get around to it and just continue on with the podcast.
On that, if we did reviews like how, like, so you do Biochocolat and then you do the review for whatever, and but then you do it in the style of what's the chef's name who does the like the
Ainsley
sultry
Harriott.
voice. Not that one.
Oh,
Who has, like,
Nigella.
Yeah.
Nigella Lawson, who kind of does it all a bit sexy. If you do reviews like that, talking about the food, but the game that's not food, if you know what I mean.
Look at Link's anus. Oh. I think if we ever had to
That's
do
my
it,
favourite Nigella quote.
I'd be keen to go with the courtroom drama kind of way.
Bread of the Wild.
What of the what?
Bread of the Wild.
Bread of the Wild.
Halfway there.
The Elder Scrolls 5 Sky Rum and Coke.
Sky Rum and Coke.
Sky Rum and Coke, I like it.
Decent.
But no, I think I'd like to do the kind of courtroom thing that appeals to me. That kind of like, you could call it devil's advocate, wouldn't you? Let it go that way.
Get Keanu
Yeah.
Reeves on.
Or you can just make it like an Ace Attorney pun.
Well, I think that was what we're going to do. We're going to have like whole things where we'd record ourselves on green screen going like, objection.
Yeah.
Overruled. Yeah. Just keep occasionally cut into things of like the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial. Just cut
God,
some of those things in.
A mega pint of wine.
Remember
But
that time
moving on
the
from reviews,
Colossus
what do you
stepped
think
on a
about
bee?
watch parties? I like Equilibrium. Fucking, it's on there.
Yeah, that'd be
Weekend
wicked,
at Bernie's. Come on.
Yeah. There's a person who I kind of semi-follow on Twitch, like every now and then, who does watches a movie like every now and then, and just like did a like using Twitch's Amazon Prime link. Just did a watch along of Heat the other night. I was like, what a great idea! Imagine hanging out with your Twitch community and just watching Heat together.
Mate,
Like,
we could do, like we spoke about last week, like we could do all the fucking Michael Mann things, like Collateral, Miami Heat.
Do you know what would be cool?
Was it Miami Vice.
Miami Vice.
Heat.
You know what would be cool is going through the Michael Mann like back catalogue as watch-alongs and then recording a split three ways audiobook of Michael Mann's Heat 2, the novel.
Yeah, but when we record it, we got to record on like first gen digital cameras.
Yeah, big time.
Get that, that texture, that feel.
Yeah.
I'd love to do something like that. Like I know Nextlander do stuff like that. They do like, I think they're doing like a watch along of like seasons of like I don't know, fucking Star Trek Deep Space Nine or some other fucking nerdy shit like that.
Oh, nice.
Series is a good idea to do series because obviously they're shorter and you can do them weekly or whatever.
It's such an easy win, yeah.
Giant Bomb used to do watch-alongs of like gaming relevant things, so because they had the GameSpot archives, so they do like a watch-along of like E3 2005 when the PS3 is announced, and you're like, oh, this is Kaz Hirai going Ridge Racer, like, but it's like you're actually watching the context.
Yeah.
Or like giant enemy crab, all that kind of stuff, like from that weird.
But like,
cool.
I think what works for them though is they're able to relate back to the stories. Like, oh yeah, I was here and we did this and we went to this place. We did like you guys could do that for an E3, and I can do it for, and you can both do it for the
Gamescom and one
I could do it
E3.
for a games. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember sitting on my couch in my underwear watching this E3 because it was in the middle of the night. Cool.
I've got a funny anecdote about waking Jamie up and he unexpectedly asking him what we were going to eat for dinner.
Did you put the pork pie in his mouth?
No.
Wow,
okay.
just the
I
challenge.
am the pork pie.
Missed
Put my
opportunity
whole
there.
self in.
Okay.
I know, right? Slathered myself up in the lube and climbed on in.
Wow.
Well, this has got so weird, man. I was just having a nap.
All right. What was it, Jonesy?
What was what?
Your funny anecdote.
That was the anecdote.
The anecdote was I fell asleep in America.
Jamie falling asleep in America and then being rudely awoken. That was the anecdote. That's what I can't. It was literally that week was so intense and horrendous. That's the best I can do from funny anecdotes.
Wow. Oh, just finish that first. I was thinking about that. Like it was fucking mental. I know, Jonesy, you had sent through like a video that you'd found on your phone. You'd be like, oh, here's a golden oldie. And I was just thinking about like how mental it is that of all the pre-production that we did, and to be fair, we had a short amount of time to do it in. But I thought we did a pretty good job in prepping ourselves to go there. But then when you guys were there, how it just like all fell apart. It's just kind of it's mad to think back on.
Best laid plans.
Yeah. It's
Also,
like,
because
who would have
we've never
thought
done anything on that scale before.
Yeah, but who would have thought that like California, of all places, would have pretty much the world's worst internet?
Right, yeah.
At least between that Airbnb and that hotel, it was not good. Unless you jacked an Ethernet cable out of one of the hotel PCs and put it in your own PC, which turned out to be the only solution.
Yeah, that worked pretty well, actually.
Do you know what? I think it's one of those things that, like, and we can attest to this through the recording and the editing of this very podcast, is that no matter what you're doing and what scale you're doing it on and where you're doing it and how familiar with it that you are, there's room for things to kind of cascade wildly out of control. And like, we know, look at the recording of this podcast, right? We know it can either be done by 10 p.m. or it can not have started by 10 p.m. And you look at the editing and it can be live at 7 p.m. or it could not have started editing by 7 p.m.
Yeah.
And like, this is something that we've done, at least one of us has done every week for 2.5 years. So if you ask me, like, am I that surprised with hindsight that our like very, detailed, if slightly ambitious plans for recording and editing on site multiple videos a day, every day from an Airbnb in California, like fell on themselves like a house of cards? It doesn't surprise me as much with hindsight, but then hindsight being 2020, that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah. It's funny actually talking about like doing that sort of stuff, because obviously Gamescom is coming up end of this month, and I found Gamescom where it was just Jamie and I, like, eminently less stressful to like film and do stuff for. Obviously it's not as big and weren't doing as much stuff, but
you weren't doing nearly as much stuff as E3.
No,
E3 was like daily videos, man.
But my
Gamescom
point
was like
going
just
to be
film the vlog. And
my point was going to be that we because we planned to do stuff that was manageable, whereas I think with E3 we massively overplanned to do so much content that it was like
true.
So I think it is all about, as you were saying, it's all about that planning. It's all about saying like.
But if E3 hadn't have happened, we wouldn't have had that foresight going into Gamescom to say, hold on a second, let's just do one thing and just try and do it well.
Yeah. Like the key thing for like the Gamescom round 2, like Gamescom 2019, after E3 was like we're not editing. No one's editing while we're out there, and that was one thing we learned, and that was like one example of something we can point to that was immediately the right choice. Does it inhibit your ability to kind of like get stuff out quickly? Like, yes, massively. It means you can't produce anything like on the day as you've seen something, and you have to rethink content around that stuff. But the reality was no one was going to be able to work effectively or efficiently based on the equipment we'd have been able to bring with us and the setup we'd have been able to create, the environment we'd have been able to create. Like, imagine one of those days at Gamescom where like Chris, one of you, me, or Steph would have had to stay behind and sit at a laptop that was chugging along, and even Premiere, like, we're all very blessed as editors to work on some of the setups we've worked on, whether it comes to the number of monitors or the size of the monitors. Like, adjusting to a laptop sometimes can be very difficult, even when it's just your workspace and where you place stuff and how much room you've got to play around with. Like, and that can throw off your game, which is a big deal in a flow-based art.
Yeah. Nicely said.
For sure.
Yeah, and instead, we just got like Domino's pizza and sat on the couch and watched Welcome to the Jungle in the evening.
and half of Don't Be a Menace to South Central.
Half of Don't Be a Menace to South Central and Step Brothers. Great. Fellas, we need to do watch parties, is all I'm saying.
That you're not wrong. Movies are good.
But look, if we're not doing watch parties, okay, we're playing games, hopefully. And I want to know what you guys have been playing recently. So let's go, AJ. I need a bit more energy than that, mate. Come on.
I was trying to think if I was going to game first or film first, because I've basically been playing one game and watched one movie, and I was going to say, because we were just talking about movies, maybe that's a better place to start. So I will start there, because this week Prey came out onto Disney Plus, the new Predator movie set. So originally when I first saw it, I thought it was set in, like a long time ago. I thought it was set quite, back, but I think it's set in the 1700s, and it's set in, I'm going to say North America. I'm not exactly sure where, but it's when like the French...
Comanches.
Yes, and it's where the French are like are moving into that area of America and are trying to, like take over all the land. And then you've got the natives people who are there trying to like, not, the film's not about them fighting, but they sort of do bump into each other. And then a predator rocks up. Loved it. Thought it was a really good movie. Thought the main character was very good. The other, her like, the actor who plays her brother and stuff, really like that character. Thought the way that they framed everything was really nice. Definitely something you should check out. If you've got Disney Plus, it is a no-brainer. If you don't have Disney Plus, try and get it another way. I don't know when it goes on sale, when it's going to be on anything else. No, do it legit. Do it legit. I'm not saying like be dodgy, but it was a real return to like the original Predator. It even has like, it actually did a really good job of almost homaging to the original Predator without doing it explicitly.
Yeah.
And whereas some films kind of, we talk about like Maverick, did it in a way that was very on the nose, but was the right side of on the nose. That it was good. This does it even more sort of detached. You could be forgiven for even knowing that it's not referencing stuff that's happened in the previous Predator films.
So when the Comanches are running and she shouts, "Get to the chopper!" Like you talk about that scene in particular. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, you'd never
says
know
that.
Yeah.
And they look at her like chopper, and there's an axe, and it's like, oh yeah, the chopper.
The chopper.
Yeah. No, there's just some really, I liked it. I thought it was very cool. It was because it didn't feel like they were sort of just going, hey, let's just go back to Predator 1 and basically just redo that kind of thing. But they've done something completely new, but still very familiar. And I thought it was great. I thought it was very good. So do you know what? It's one that I might even watch again, just so that in case I missed anything.
Yeah, I want to watch it. Like I really do.
Me too.
I always loved Predator as a kind of concept. The first film is obviously amazing, even to this day. And, like the various missteps of each and every single Predator film since the first one. Sure. There's some fun to be had in some of them. But yeah, this just looks like it's just a novel concept, I feel. And the director, Dan Trachtenberg, whose previous film was 10 Cloverfield Lane, is a seriously underrated film. That is a good movie.
It's a good movie.
Enjoyed it.
Good movie. Yeah. Another film that took like a potentially an increasingly troubled franchise and thought, here's a spin.
Yeah.
Right.
If you think like don't get me wrong, Cloverfield not storied as Predator, but
yeah, I get it.
It's basically the only good film to have the Cloverfield word attached to it.
Yeah. I liked Cloverfield, funnily enough. I thought that was decent. But
Cloverfield was decent.
I know so many
I think the
people hated
marketing
it.
was what made it, though.
Oh, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It's definitely the marketing. But I do think what they've done with this was interesting because they've gone back, like I said, they've gone right back to the original. So Predator and Alien, I think, are kind of similar in that the first movies are actually pretty different from everything else that followed.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see Predator back in that environment. Like, I didn't like the Alien versus Predator films.
Oh, they were trash.
I quite liked the most recent Predator. I think, was it just called Predator?
The Predator.
The Predator.
Yeah, there was The Predator, which was the one that was actually somehow written and directed by Shane Black.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't remember any of the cast. And then the one before that was Predators, which had Adrian Brody.
I liked Predators. I thought it was decent.
It's not. It's actually it's not that bad. That's one of those ones that you reflect on and you're like, do you know what? They could have done a lot worse.
Yeah,
because they
exactly.
did eventually.
Sure. But it's almost like Predator 1, and then all the other films. But now Prey is kind of like edging back up there.
Some people have a big soft spot for the second, right?
Yeah, but you see, the second one was so fucking weird because it was in the city and there was just like this weird fucking gang shit in Los Angeles, and it was just kind of a little bit weird. And that is the film that started the whole Aliens versus Predator thing. It was an Easter egg.
Oh, was it? I didn't realize there was anything
at the
to
end
do
of the film. Fucking.
Because it has an alien skull in the ship. Is that
in the ship? Yeah, at the end. Yeah.
Oh,
so that was the Easter egg, and that birthed the Alien versus Predator kind of.
Because Predator could have gone the way Aliens went, where they started to do all the crazy shit with Alien Covenant and Prometheus and all of. They could have got into like the lore and all of that sort of stuff. But I much prefer what Prey does, where it says like, no, shit off all of that. Yeah. We're going right back to keep it basic. Predators come to Earth to hunt humans.
And that's what you need. Sometimes you don't need to fucking add in all this fucking complexity. It just needs to be simple.
It does. And Predator's such a goddamn cool character. It's nice to just see them use it in a cool way and have fun with it. I would actually, I'd be well up for a Prey 2. Like, obviously not yet. It's a bit soon. But if they maybe did something else.
I heard they've greenlit a Predator TV series.
Oh, that sounds grim. But we'll have to wait and see. But okay, the next thing I have to talk about, I forgot to talk about next week, so I'm definitely have to talk about it this week.
You mean last week?
And that is last week, sorry. That is Path of Titans, which is a MMORPG game where you play as a dinosaur.
Oh, yeah?
That we were lucky enough to get a code for. And I've been playing quite a lot of it with my absolutely dinosaur-obsessed son, who has, like every day has been like, can we play more of Path of Titans? Because he knows every dinosaur known to man, and he'll be like, do you know what? I actually dropped some money on it to unlock an extra dino pack.
Nice, decent.
Because my son was like, I really want to be he really wants to be a Spinosaurus.
I want to be a
Stygimoloch, Dad.
Spinosaurus.
Yeah, Spinosaurus, the one with the fin.
Yeah, which was actually was a cool pack of dinosaurs to unlock, because it was so the game it does feel a bit Ark Survival Evolved, but the only way is the vegetation and the dinosaurs. Everything else is very different.
Yeah, but you play as a dinosaur, not as a caveman.
You're role playing exactly. You're role playing as a dinosaur, and if you play online, you effectively start off as a hatchling. You run through a bit of a tutorial.
Do you select what dinosaur you can be? Like, do they have like a bunch of like core dinosaurs?
Oh, exactly. So they have a core list, and then you can buy packs of dinosaurs outside of that. And also, there's a lot of talk on there about modding and stuff, and bringing other animals and aliens and dragons and things into it for mods down the line. But yeah, so like I said, so my son wanted to be a Spinosaurus because that wasn't in the starting pack. So we downloaded that, and then he wanted to play as a Spinosaurus. So you start off as a little itty bitty hatchling Spinosaurus, trying to like survive and not get chomped by the bigger dinosaurs, and you sort of do missions and run through the woods and do things, and you level up, and as you level up and get XP, you grow. And the idea is you end up being, fully formed Spino, T-Rex, Deinonychus, whatever you want. And it's cool. Like, I like the concept. I thought the concept was really strong. The way that they've done it is very cool. The animations and stuff and the controls are all fine. You can go in and customize dinosaurs with like skin and skin color and patterns and all this sort of shit. And you can even do whether they've got different perks and different buffs in certain areas. All of that, pretty standard fare for the sort of game it is.
Yeah.
The one area that I think was the biggest letdown, or two areas I'd say the biggest letdown for me. One was the mission type. If you want to go in and when you're really small, you want to just complete missions, a lot of them are kind of repetitive and a bit dull. It'll be like, collect 50 lychees in this certain area of the map, and the map is fucking huge. A lot of it is stamina management.
Oh, so, right, okay.
If you're a herbivore, you've got a shit ton of stamina, but you're not that quick. So you can run for a long time, and it'll be like, you need to get to this area within half an hour, and you need that time, because the map is so big that you'll be running for 20 minutes.
Just can't you just get like air support, like a pterodactyl comes and picks you up, and
you can, if you play with friends or actually other people, you can be summoned to certain points in the map, but they're few and far between. And also, normally, if you get summoned somewhere, you're just going to get summoned by someone who wants to eat you. so don't do it. Basically.
Okay, fair enough.
So there's a lot of running and resting and running and resting and running and doing missions where you've got to collect up shit off the floor. When you get to fight other dinosaurs or interact with other people, that's quite cool. Like I bumped into a pack of like Tyrannosaurus Rexes where one was fully grown and others were small, and I was like a mid-sized Spino. And you do a bit of like, what is it, Rust, where you kind of be like, are you going to fucking bite me? If you're going to bite me, I'm going to bite you. Don't you bite me, because if you bite me...
Are you friendly? That's what dinosaurs usually say to each other all the time.
Yeah,
friendly,
exactly.
friendly.
You can roar.
You got a mic? You got a mic?
Mate.
So they've got a roar button, which is like on a circle on the PlayStation, is like roar. So you can, when you get near them, just like roar at them, and then they're like roaring at you, and you've got emotes and things where you can do different kinds of roars, which is quite fun. But yeah, so the mission stuff is kind of repetitive.
So as your Spinosaurus, you could just do some flossing. Just say like, back off.
This is a good point. As a Spino, you're a water-dwelling dinosaur. So if you get into a lake, you can actually go underwater and you can swim around. You can eat fish and shit. As the other dinosaurs, you can swim in water, but it depends on what type you are as to how long you can go in it. And if you're not a water-based, you can't go under the water. So if a T-Rex comes in to try and get you in the water, if you're a Spino, you could swim under. T-Rex can't go under, he can just swim across the top. So you could nibble his feet off if you really wanted to.
Nice. I like it. Attention
Like in
to detail.
Oblivion when you play as what's the
Argonian.
lizard like? Argonian, yeah, and you just hide from the guards by just
That's my main, bro. I'm always Argonian in the fucking Elder Scrolls.
and it can't get
Because-
poisoned either.
Yeah, you can't get any diseases, and you can breathe underwater. Amazing.
Easy wins.
I think Path of Titans is a cool game if you like dinosaurs, and I think the mods is where it's going to live or die.
Yeah, but you see,
Because-
when you said shit like aliens and monsters and shit, that's where I'm kind of like I'm out. I want a pure dino experience if I'm into it.
No, but see, one of I think if you had like dragons, for example, if you can fly and you're a dragon with a massive map, you could actually have some game types that fit that giant map, are more fun, and they could introduce some mission variation that's actually a bit more dynamic, because collecting shit constantly is kind of boring.
But
It
it would
takes a long
only
time.
it would only work in a dragon-based server, because as soon as you pop a dragon in there, they just decimate everyone else because they can breathe fire.
It would have to be specific. Yeah, it
Yeah.
would have to be, or maybe dragons and something else. I don't know. Like I could, you know, what I can imagine
Like
I can
cowboys and
imagine-
aliens.
Yes, I can imagine mods where you've got like dragons versus something, and you sort of join a team. Like team-based stuff would be
Fucking
better.
guaranteed someone's gonna fucking mod Pokemon into it. I'm a Charizard.
That would be quite cool. But yeah, it's get sued, but you know. But no, I liked it. My like I said, my son's dinosaur crazy, and he's been loving it. To been playing a decent amount of it. It just needs some more variation as well, and not to be so fucking big.
So you know, my
fucking
son's
big.
also really into dinosaurs, and you know, like you always just fucking name a million fucking dinosaurs, and I've had dinosaurs on my mind for a decent while now, like more than I probably should have. Although, is there ever enough? Because dinosaurs are fucking cool, regardless of your age. And I was just thinking, like, it's such a foreign fucking thing. Obviously, we've got films and theorized about everything, but I would fucking love and be equal measure terrified to just travel back in time just to see what a particular patch of the earth would be with fucking dinosaurs and nothing else. The problem there is, of course, like, as soon as you get out of the time machine, you probably get attacked by a million diseases, let alone any fucking
Yeah, fuck
dinosaur.
that.
And the thing is, you might not even see any dinosaurs before you die of your disease. You know?
I'd do it if you could do it safely.
Yeah, if you could go in a pod and the pod is like hermetically sealed or whatever.
The sphere? What's the sphere from Jurassic World? The gyrospheres, where they, you know, if you had one of them, this was like unbreachable.
Oh,
Mate, I'd be all about
I think that would be my, like, if anyone says you could go to any point in history, I think that would be my jam. Sure.
I think we'd all be a bit let down because I don't think they'd look like they are in Jurassic Park.
But this is what I just think it would be fascinating anyway. Like, what color are they? Do they have fucking feathers everywhere? Like, how dense is it? Is it just because in my head it's like you've got fucking Diplodocus over there, in the fucking forests, and then you've got like velociraptors running by, and then the T-Rex comes stomping by, and then there's a herd of fucking Triceratops running about, and then the fucking Therizinosaurus comes out with his fucking nails, and it's just like it's a mental image, but the truth of it is probably like, oh, there's a Gallimimus.
Yeah, but what a waste of a trip that would be. Like, imagine Chris is like nominated to be the one person who can go back in time to any point he wants, and he comes back and they're like, so what did you learn, Chris? He's like, God, it turns out dinosaurs didn't live as close to each other as we thought to. Just a lot of,
Saw one.
yeah, saw one and came back. Whereas like the alternative is like, yeah, you could have gone back to witness
Like the
Jesus
Crusades or
perform
Jesus,
a
or, yeah,
miracle and like see what did he do? Was he just a magician?
Nothing.
Is he just a magician?
Yeah. Okay. But then, like, how? There are. I think there are more interesting blanks in the tale of human and prior to human.
I think you'd have the same
existence that-
problem. Ironically, I think you'd have the same problem if you went back to Jesus times and you saw Jesus. You'd think he's walking along doing magic shit like left and right and bringing people back from the dead and lightning bolts. And in reality, it'll be some bloke just walking down the street and going, "You all right?"
All right, then what about if you go back in time to when like the Gospels were writing that stuff and just like asking
Watch a
them,
man
like,
write a book.
Where are you getting it from?
No, how you'd use your one trip to go back in time to say to a fella, "Where'd you get that from?"
Yeah, and then I'd say look over there, and I'd scribble in Jamie was here, and then that would be in the Bible forever.
Oh, where would I go back in time if I could go back to one?
I reckon
if
the top two have got to be kind of like whatever your religion is, the kind of like apex of that religion, or dinosaurs? Surely those are the like top two.
I'm going to resort to Google to get some ideas.
Do you know what? I would think it'd be cool. Be something like would be going back not that long ago, but to like
Fall of the Berlin Wall. That'd be a party and a half.
Like when the Brits were trying to when they were getting fucked up by the Americans, like Assassin's Creed 3 era. That would be interesting. Pirates. Yeah. When was that? Like Pirates era, where they were going around on ships in the Caribbean. That'd be an interesting.
With some people
1800s?
online.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about like the swinging 60s and like the sexual liberation era, like prior to the AIDS and stuff like that.
That's just people who can't. That's just people who can't get laid who want to go somewhere they think they could.
It's just a bunch of incels.
Going back to the morning of 9/11 and trying to pull as many fire alarms as you could in the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
That's an altruistic thing.
Yeah, that's a noble one. I'd still rather see dinosaurs.
If I had to go back to a period and live in it, I'd go back. I think I'd go live in the 80s.
Do you reckon?
I reckon that'd be fun.
I mean, we grew up in the 80s, dude. It's like
Yeah, but I was a young kid. But I want to be like. I vaguely remember wearing a shell suit on a skiing trip. I want a shell suit all the time with a big hair and all that shit.
I think that's a cool answer if you couldn't come back.
Yeah,
if it was a one-way time,
one-way.
I'm
saying
if it's a one-way ticket,
totally.
then the 80s and 90s.
One-way ticket to fucking the Triassic period or the Cretaceous.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, come on.
No. I'm not suggesting you would, but I'm just saying that's where Jonesy's answer becomes more relevant.
Yeah. I don't think dinosaurs are as big as we think they were.
I mean,
I feel like we're
the
discovering
bones.
that all the time, right?
It's
Like
my spicy.
We literally have the bones.
What we don't. We literally don't have the bones.
I went to a museum and they put all the bones next to each other to make a big thing and that stands in the middle.
The Diplodocus in
but they're
the
not-
Natural History Museum.
But they're not bones. That's fossil.
Jesus, here we go.
No,
Why-
like
why-
Chris,
do you
Chris,
make
Chris
them
asked
so
me what I
difficult?
played this week. Ask
No,
me what I
'cause
played this week.
bones are like minerals, right? Then it's like a what do you call it? It's like the bones leave an imprint in the rock or whatever, and then the space gets filled up with minerals over time. So you effectively get like a cast of where the bones were, and that's what a fossil is. So it's actually rock, which has been left by sediment, by water, whatever. So what I'm saying, what I wonder is, this is my tinfoil hat for the day. Over that length of time, 65 million years, somehow those casts expand and get bigger. So we think a Diplodocus was massive, but actually it was like this big.
What about when they excavate the fossils and leave them in the ground and you have the kind of the cross section, like because even if the things expand, the distance they are relative to one another can't change unless they were moving each other, which doesn't happen.
Yeah, it would have you're right. It's the gaps between them would get squished up, wouldn't they? If they expanded, they'll get smushed together.
So Jonesy,
It's a good point.
Fossilized bones were bones that were turned to stone, not that they are stone. Or
No,
not
so
that
the
they are an
bone- so the-
imprint of a bone.
It's not stone.
They
It's not
were
stone,
the
it's
bone that was then fucking calcified or whatever
it's-
they turned into stone.
Yeah, but the bone's gone. It's the minerals which then fill the space where the bone
Sure,
was.
but that fossil
So
would
it's
not
like
have
it's like
existed
a
if it
rock.
wasn't a bone.
No, agreed. So it was a bone
Okay,
originally.
so
but then
therefore
now it
we
goes
have an
away and it's
imprint
rock.
of their bones, which means we have an imprint of how big things were.
Yeah, so that's what I said. It's like a cast. But then I said, imagine if the cast over time somehow gets bigger because geological movements or whatever. But as Jamie said, if that happened, then they probably all smush together and it wouldn't really work. So maybe not. I just don't buy there was something as big as a fucking Argentinosaurus knocking around. How the hell did it get that big?
I mean, there are definitely probably still things about dinosaurs we're gonna like have to correct in the future, like especially
the
with
feather
regards
thing,
to
right? Like,
yeah, exactly, like what they look like beyond their bones and their skeletal structures. Like we're gonna have to readdress that stuff plenty, I'm sure, in the future.
yeah, you say that, but then you look at like living fossils like
Crocodiles or whatever.
crocodiles, Komodo dragons. Like, we have a blueprint for what it could be. And then you also
No,
say,
they're-
I'm just
they're a
more
different
thinking about the
thing,
feather
though.
thing.
They're
Like there'll be
lizards.
more.
yeah, because they're not
dinosaurs-
theropods. Because theropods walk on two legs, and the closest thing to theropods are birds, which have
Yeah,
feathers.
birds, yeah.
But,
Although some dinosaurs probably did have feathers, right? Like velociraptors.
Did you
Apparently
see
so,
that
yeah.
they genetically engineered? I think it was a chicken to so that it grew legs. Like
They give it
I mean,
dino
chickens
DNA.
have legs, Alex Jones.
No, sorry, but like dinosaur legs. They
Yeah, they
did
gave
so
it
recently
they injected it with Dino DNA.
with the frog.
Yeah.
Yeah,
With the frog. Dino DNA.
but only females.
Yeah.
But hey, life finds a way.
Lift up their skirts.
All right, you know
Well,
what
now
else finds a
finally-
way? Jamie to a
Sorry.
game. I'm gonna have to
Yep.
move you on. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a
Apologies.
fun diversion. But yeah, Jamie, what have you been playing?
Do you know what my favourite French breakfast is?
French toast.
Metal Gear Solid 5, the Phantom Pain au Chocolat.
Wow,
Get it? It doesn't work quite as well because it doesn't rhyme. It's a full-on pronunciation change, but the spelling's identical.
big stretch, but I'll let you have it. Phantom Pain. What
Yeah,
kind
no,
of
yeah.
brought this on?
I don't know. I'm still kind of ticking along with some of the things I've been playing recently. Like I've almost finished Ghostwire, and I'm playing a lot of Rogue Legacy. And I sent you earlier, Chris. I'm tempted to jump on Cult of the Lamb should sort of time and funds free themselves up. But I was just watching a streamer play MGS5, and I kind of had one of those moments where I was like, I never replayed that game, and 7 years is actually quite a long time to not touch something that.
7 years.
Yeah, crazy, right?
I mean, why don't
and
you just
something I
go play
love so
Metal Gear
much.
Survive, like the latest?
You filthy.
No, I watched a video about Metal Gear Survive the other day, and I was like, God, I'd almost forgotten this game happened. Yeah, and life was better off that way.
Wow. there you go.
No, I just got a sudden urge because I was watching someone else play it, and I thought, God, this game is cool. And I went and did exactly that. I never played the PC version, so it was nice to be able to play it 1440p and it's higher frame rates. I think it's on is it Fanatical or somewhere like that, where it's on sale at the moment for like £4.99.
Right,
so
yeah,
it's with Ground Zeroes and all the DLC. So I was like, that's a reasonable deal for a game that like I just want to play a PC port of. And guess what? It's still really good. I still feel similarly to how I felt about it at the time, which is that it's super interesting to see Hideo Kojima and his team look at the way that stealth and particularly open world stealth changed in the years following the years following the early Metal Gear Solid games, which brought that genre forward so much and so quickly. It's interesting seeing him and his team seemingly look at like the Far Cries of the world and say, what does our version of that look like?
Yeah.
And the answer being so damn good, and it is still kind of in a field of its own. But the other thing that I realized, and the reason I kind of wanted to bring it up as just an interesting thought that I thought I'd share rather than kind of do anything more elaborate with, which is that as someone who has now played the first 68 hours of both Death Stranding and Metal Gear Solid 5 within a couple of weeks of each other, you get the feeling, playing them both so close together, that obviously Kojima is the consistent thread there, and you can get a sense of that in the way that the narrative is structured and his approach to characters and to writing dialogue, especially, at least in terms of the way it gets translated into English, for better or for worse. But I'd be fascinated to look at the credits and see which core members of the team, the Kojima Productions team, were consistent between the two, because they both have this almost identical structure, which is that we're going to hit you really hard over the head in the first couple of hours with linear missions and large amounts of cutscenes and lots of story and lots of exposition, lots of setup, lots of premise. We're going to give you these almost frustrating early missions that kind of give you a glimpse and a tease of what the game is about, but don't give you the tool set to feel like you're really able to take advantage of it. Like in Death Stranding, we talked about how it's transporting a body and you're losing balance every 3 seconds and it's the most arduous journey. In Metal Gear Solid 5, like I'm reminded, it's like you can't you don't have the mother base set up yet, so you can't check the grades of soldiers and you can't filter them out, and you have all your weapons have suppressors that have durability, so your suppressors fucking run out, and like you have to knock people out in one shot, it has to be a headshot within a certain range, and like you only have D-Horse who can't really do anything, and like both Death Stranding and Metal Gear Solid 5 are these things where it's like, here's the most sort of primitive and annoying version of a really cool game design loop that we're just going to make better and better and better and better and better by making it easier and easier and giving you more and more tools. And then as soon as the ramp of difficulty starts to get too high, we're going to change the environment and the ways in which you're doing things and match that with it.
Yeah.
So with Death Stranding, it's like all of a sudden I've got all these weapons and I've got shoes that don't the durability goes down in a fraction of the speed, and I've got this exoskeleton that means I never lose balance, and I'm running up hills, and all of a sudden it's like, bang, you're in the Alps, basically, like, and there's snow everywhere, and everything you've learned is useless. And Metal Gear Solid 5 kind of does the same, where, like, it will just throw things at you, like, now you're fighting child soldiers, and you're not allowed to kill them. Or there's literally things in Metal Gear Solid 5 where it's like, you've killed so many people with headshots that the enemies have started wearing helmets, and one headshot won't kill them anymore. But at the same time, you've got Quiet, and now Quiet is at maximum relationship level, and she can kill people on command, and she's actually got a silenced tranquilizer sniper, so you can still extract people. And it's like this fascinating thing of the two lines between player ability and difficulty staying perfectly in sync. And that's why I think both of those games have such a fascinating driving force behind them that meant the 60 hours in both cases went by like that first time round.
Yeah.
And yet my drive to replay them and start from zero was always somewhat lacking. And like that's it's a weird thing. But
it's all set up to say that in about 5 years' time you're going to go and replay the entirety of Death Stranding.
I mean, maybe. Like, never say never. What I guess what I'm really saying is that it's very interesting that, like, there's this idea of Hideo Kojima as an auteur and him putting his mark and his print on games. But yet, specifically in the case of MGS5 and Death Stranding, you play them close together, you get the semblance of, like, actually, there's a core game design team. Yeah. The people who probably deal with the shit that Kojima doesn't care as much about, like upgrade trees, that are, like, not that are extremely tuned into a reward loop that keeps people playing for far longer than they perhaps should.
That could just be Kojima and his blueprint of
it could just be Kojima. But, like, if it's not Kojima, then, like, fair play to them, because their job is basically take some extremely long, extremely, you know, kind of occasionally messy, strenuous, boring, obnoxious, whatever word you want to use, difficult narratives and make them engaging. Like, imagine being the game design team responsible, like Kojima comes up to you and says, I've got a story that takes 50 hours to tell, which means you have to make delivering parcels engaging and entertaining for 50 hours. Like, that's an uphill challenge, no pun intended. And that's kind of what happened in MGS5 as well, which is notorious for its lack of story and its lack of cutscenes. It's like, I'm making a Far Cry game, you guys have to make it engaging for 50 hours, and they did it.
Yeah, and they didn't finish it, so...
And they didn't even finish it. So
yeah,
that was all I was
going to say.
Fascinating
about that whole thing is you've kind of like stumbled on and understood that so nicely and related to us so eloquently. So thank you for that. But my mind is blown how much time you have on your hands. Like, see, I'm here just kind of lamenting to myself, you know, to be able to play 2 games in a row, 60 hours back to back, and have the time and foresight to think on it and pick up on those little minutiae, like, a fair play to you, dude.
I mean,
someone's got to do it, right?
First of all, it's always a trade-off. Like, hey, I haven't watched Prey this week because I've done other stuff.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, and like this will be a foreign concept to you guys, but the strange thing that happens when you don't have a wife or kids and so on and so forth is that it arrives at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, you down tools, and you realise I've got from now until I go to bed to do whatever the fuck I want. And if you don't want to go, if you don't want to go to bed until midnight, then you've got 6 or 7 hours. What, like, and it's like your only obligation. What, like, you have to eat dinner at some point? Like,
I'll be honest, dude. I'm surprised you haven't jerked yourself skinny.
I've come to, were such a thing possible, I think I'd be in the running.
What's the thing? Scary Movie where he like blasts her into the ceiling and he ends up all like withered away.
Hell yeah, bro. Yeah.
There's a reason I never show my right forearm in these recordings. It's because, like, if I put them both up side by side, you'd be like, what?
Wow. Interesting. Nice.
I really want to. I've 2 games that I really still want to finish, and just I don't think I'm ever going to have time to, which is a shame. But so I remember
Metal Gear Solid and Death Stranding and BioShock.
The amount of time
and Cyberpunk.
But I don't want to finish BioShock.
Scumbag, you're so close to finishing.
You did finish it, I thought.
No, I thought you
finished BioShock. Man, okay, I must have made that up in my head.
I will.
Does that mean you still don't know the twist of BioShock?
Yeah, he doesn't know.
I have known it in the past, and I've made myself
right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh God, we're now stumbling upon 2-year-old podcast jokes. That's how weary we've got.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, my catch up is super quick. I haven't played any games, and it's not going to get any better. My parents are visiting me from South Africa next week for the first time since I've moved to the UK, so that's good. But that means that I'm
both massive gamers, so they're going to be taking over
gamers.
all of Chris's console, his laptop, his everything.
Nah, so the thing is, I've got to kind of like show them the town and this, that, the other, and do family stuff. So I'm not going to have time to do anything really. And in fact, even this week and much of next week is going to be just prepping for their arrival in various ways while
chopping vegetables.
Exactly. While dealing with work and various other things that life just kind of throws at you. But the one thing that I will talk about is I've started watching this show. Jamie, you pointed out to me on Paramount Plus, because as a Sky subscriber, I get it for free. And it's a show made by the people that did American Vandal on Netflix. If you don't know, that was kind of like a piss take of these like, not murder mystery. What would it be
True
like?
crime?
True crime kind of dramas that they kind of do it. So American Vandal was basically like American high school students and someone drew dicks all over the school. And it's like, oh, who drew the dicks? And very much a piss take on those kinds of shows. Players is made by the same people. And it's, the premise is, hey, let's follow an esports team, or specifically an esports player who is well past his prime, who is exceedingly talented but never reached the heights that he thinks he should be at. And then a new player comes into the team and he's exceptionally talented, and the kind of turmoil between them. I've only watched one episode so far, but it looks decent. It's very much, I think you need to be interested in esports to kind of get it. I don't think like you can be into gaming and kind of be like, oh yeah. I think you do kind of need to have that side of you that's like, hey, I like esports. It follows a League of Legends team, which I'm not into League of Legends, but it's still enjoyable as an esports kind of like enthusiast, enjoyer of esports. But I was a little bit pissed off about this, fellas. Jamie knows why, and I'll say it. I don't mind. I hate to say it because it's kind of like this trope, but effectively, I fucking had this exact idea. Not done in this particular way, like a mockumentary, but I remember even from like the dawn of ATG days, I was like, I still got the blueprint in my head if we need to do it, but it was very much a case of esports.
You don't know someone else has done it?
Well, no, because they haven't done it in the way that I would do it. Right? But it's like one of those things, like I remember there was, God, this is going to age me. There was an episode of Mad About You with Paul Reiser, and he lost his wallet, and he found his wallet, like his old wallet, like years later. And he goes through, oh my God, I can't believe I found this wallet, blah, blah, blah. And he's looking through it, and he picks out a piece of paper, and it goes, if movie idea, bus goes over, there's a bomb on the bus. If the bus goes over 60, under 60, it explodes. It's like, well, there you go. I came up with the idea for Speed. So I'm well aware that it's turning into one of those things. But yeah, like I remember at the dawn of ATG kind of having discussions with higher ups saying, where they'd be like, hey, esports is a thing. What can we do around it? I'm like, you know what's not an untapped market on esports is kind of like entertainment around the scene of esports, but that is not esports itself. And I am glad that this is just kind of what's happening at the moment and people are kind of focusing on this, because I do think it's kind of like an untapped, unexplored territory. And I will be okay with it as long as no one kind of takes my particular slant on the fucking idea. Bastards. But yeah, players, check it out. I'd be interested to know if you guys like watch it, how you take it, because
what's it on? Is it on, you said Paramount Plus?
Paramount Plus. If you've got Sky, you get Paramount Plus for free.
Okay.
And it's just a case of like registering and boom, it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be I'm glad that there's more sort of like gaming or gaming adjacent television or just media in general being made, but I didn't get better at watching it, because hearing you talk about that made me realize that again, that Chris, I think you're the only one of us three that ever watched or ever got around to Mythic Quest.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
Mythic Quest is so good, dude. And the next
which is still going, I think. Yeah, I was going to say, it's still going. And like that feels like such an obvious place to start. but like,
Oh, I've just realised. I did just look up Paramount Plus because you were saying, because I do have Sky, so I'll have to jump on there and watch some players. I have just realised though that Strange New Worlds is on there as well, so I might have to check
there
that.
we go.
Check that out
Star
first
Trek.
before I. Yeah.
Go on, Jonesy. All right, fellas, should we jump back on the news then?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so earlier we were talking about Sony and Microsoft, and we were saying, hey, imagine if Sony said God of War day one, God of War Ragnarok day one is available to like the top tier of PlayStation Plus. How an excuse to print money at that stage. But then again, they don't necessarily need to do that because just releasing the game, at least for PlayStation owners, is an excuse to print money. And it's kind of weird because, fellas, guess what? God of War Ragnarok is kind of scary. No one wants to release a game around God of War Ragnarok. Now, it's not unheard of. We haven't kind of seen this before, right? It's like what happened with Cyberpunk. No one wanted to release around Cyberpunk.
Yeah, there's a bit of that around Red Dead 2, I remember as well.
Yes,
Call of Duty went early October for the first time in franchise history.
Yeah, which is mad, right? When like Call of Duty, like the behemoth kind of says, we'll move just to be safe. But yeah, so God of War Ragnarok is slated to release November 9th, if you are like me and Jamie and believe that, or November 9th, 2025, if you are in the same camp as Alex Jones. But yeah, so what's this guy's name? Tom Gettys.
Tim Gettys.
Tim Gettys. Why did I say Tom? It's the stroke's coming back. Tim Gettys from Kind of Funny Games stated that he's been on calls with industry people who have said that basically they're giving God of War Ragnarok a wide berth. And he said he was shocked at how some unnamed individuals have said, we're pulling out on this, we're backing out of that, and at the end of the year, it's going to be a wash as companies run scared. Which, you know, it's weird because it's just on PlayStation, fellas.
It was a funny clip though, because it was like obviously he was like chatting to someone about I can't remember, I don't know who he was actually chatting to, but yeah, the way he was saying like it shocked him how afraid people seem to be. But I suppose it makes sense, right? If you've got something which is going to be such a behemoth and you know that it's going to dominate that holiday season, that like, you know, people say, and everyone's going to be talking about it, then I suppose it totally makes sense that you don't want to do, you know, you don't want to start a PR campaign, you don't want to like necessarily try and kick anything off in a big way that's going to cost you any money, or like try and do anything big because it's just going to get consumed by the media around it. From what he said, I don't think he's necessarily saying games that are supposed to be coming out are getting pushed or have been pushed for that specific reason.
Yeah.
But maybe more that just like things around gaming that might, you know, companies might have been doing things, might have been talking about the games, whatever, and maybe just giving it some breathing space is what I kind of took from it.
Yeah. Like, I think it's one of those ones that it makes sense to be wary or cautious, and I'm sure plenty of the studios and teams that are developing games slated for Q4 will have all the research and data they need to know like what the audience crossover is and just how much of their potential market could be cannibalized by a game like God of War. And I'm sure there'll be further data to suggest how many people there are that will be willing to buy 2 games or play 2 games in a small amount of time. But I think the reality is, you kind of hinted this earlier, Chris, when you mentioned Xbox, like Xbox are a weird case where like they would have nothing to worry about if it was an Xbox exclusive, because in theory there's very little competition or cannibalization there. Yeah. But Xbox don't have anything, and I think that's the other kind of elephant in the room when you look at the end of the year. But also when you look at what there are games that would theoretically would be within their right to be slightly worried about God of War, but seemingly aren't. Like you look at other third-person action games, for example, like where you've got Gotham Knights, or you've got Hogwarts Legacy, which we still presume is Q4, or the Callisto Protocol. There are plenty of other, you know, third-person action games that will have PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 representation that could theoretically see themselves having the same audience that are like, we're going to take the plunge. There are also mass-market games, like there are every year, like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, that obviously are not going to budge and never would.
Yeah. Well, so you say that, but then they did for Red Dead, right?
Well, they'll change their date, but they'll never miss their... So holiday is still holiday.
They won't miss their quarter.
Yeah. And so it is one of those ones where, and I know Jonesy said this isn't necessarily about games that you can point to and saying, look at them, they jumped ship. But it's not like you can look at Q1 at the moment of 2023 and obviously point to games that got out of God of War Ragnarok's way. I'm just sure it's something that people have got in mind, even if it's in the back of their mind. Like, hey, maybe don't be in the same week as this, which Ubisoft apparently didn't listen to because Skull and Bones is coming out the day before God of War Ragnarok. So
I think that's on purpose.
maybe just fucking
Because they know it's going to be a flop, so they put it out there and they think, shit, how can we justify this flop? Oh, I know, put it in front of God of War Ragnarok and then blame God of War Ragnarok that it didn't.
That is Ubisoft's MO at the moment as well. Is just to slide games out at the most random fucking times and just not tell anyone. Oh, did it come out? It's like they're the ones going, did it come out? We didn't even know. Oh, don't worry about it. Maybe buy something else. God of War just come out. Buy that.
Yeah.
So goddamn weird. But it's okay, but Forspoken, that has obviously gone back to January of 2023, was supposed to be coming out. We don't have a date yet for Hogwarts Legacy. So do you reckon, what are the chances that Legacy gets bumped?
Mate, that's Warner Brothers. That game is coming out if they got to put it on crutches and kick it out the door in Q4. That's what's going to happen. Mark my words.
Fair enough.
I'm sure they'd like it. I'm sure that'd make Christmas look pretty nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty healthy.
Yeah, it is kind of a weird one. Like, it's funny. I can't remember where I was reading it, but someone was saying, like, they were looking back at some comments that they had made last year about this year, saying, like, oh, I think it was Yong Yi, actually. And he was saying, like, what a mad year this is going to be with all of these games coming out. And so many games have vacated that it's just kind of like, it does feel kind of bare in a way. Like, yes, you've got like massive hitters. Don't get me wrong. You've got your fucking Elden Ring. God of War is going to be massive. But you look at games like Horizon, maybe didn't reach the heights that they were hoping, even though it sold perfectly fine. But, you know, like, these games need to come out at the end of the year. Like Starfield pushed. Okay, Redfall pushed, fine, fuck, whatever. Yeah, like, there's still a scarily large amount of unknowns for what should be coming out at the end of this year that have not been given dates.
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
Plus, if you think of Alex Jones's take, then, hey, God of War, Jonesy, not coming out this year anyway, so...
But that's what I was going to say.
Even more dire.
That's kind of funny as well, because if they do bump some games, you know, like some of the ones which haven't got dates yet, and they say, hey, let's put them out first thing 2023, if nothing, just to give them more of a chance of being higher up the rankings, you know, when it comes to like game of the year kind of situation, because obviously I suppose a lot of people are going to assume God of War is going to take game of the year this year, maybe, you know, or it's going to definitely be up there.
It's the year when Elden Ring is out, so it's going to have a lot of work.
Sure. So, but it's going to be up there. So maybe they're like, do you know what? Let's just get into 2023. Let's give ourselves, you know, more of a clear run at it. And then if Ragnarok does get bumped to 2023, they're just going to be like so pissed off. Yeah. But hey, nothing says it's going to get bumped at the moment. So chances are my expectations, my predictions are wrong.
It's going to be a mixed bag. Like, one thing that I just remembered is that, did you see what happened to Marvel's Midnight Suns? This past week, where that's been pushed and doesn't have a new date. It's just like very ominously pushed into the distance. I think it's gonna, I think it's gonna be a mixture between those kind of slightly ominous pushes, like, hey, you'll hear about this game next year. We'll figure it out between now and then, and also just like, it's very easy to forget because there was such an onrush and an onslaught through June, especially of news, that we are still in the kind of the preview cycle for this fall.
Gamescom,
and like between. Gamescom in a couple of weeks, THQ Nordic tomorrow. Nintendo just had a direct for Splatoon. You know, like Sony will at some point have something for God of War, and of course they have had showcases in September in both of the last 2 years. So like in the next month to month and a half, let's call it the next 40 to 45 days, like plenty of things will happen, and some of that will involve games missing out. Yeah, and like Hogwarts Legacy, for example, like who knows, like that could easily be one of those things where Warner Brothers slip into an event and are like, December 9th, get pre-ordering, or it could be like a Marvel's Midnight Suns and certain games will just disappear into the ether and we'll find out next year. But like a lot can happen. Like Keighley's doing a show, you know, Keighley's doing another 2-hour show in 2 weeks, and it feels like we just had the last one, but
that's just the way things work. 30 game. Was it game reveals? Did he mention? I think so.
Yeah. But then they're doing that thing where they talk about how much they've got going on, and the first couple of things you're like, okay, it's like we're gonna see more Sonic. It's like I don't care, Jeff. At this point, we are gonna see.
I like how you said that, like you're talking directly to him, like, come on, Jeff.
Like, just don't promote the show that way. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna give you the 7th preview of the worst looking Sonic game in recent memory. Like, why are we still doing this? What's the circus for?
It is funny when they say that, and you do think like, do they not know that everyone has said it looks awful, or do they do know, but they're contractually obligated?
Yeah,
And
it's too big a name as well. It's just
maybe.
It carries too much weight. Well, the other one they've got is like the new game from the team who made Subnautica. It's their new game that they've confirmed will be at Gamescom.
Yeah, which fair play. Subnautica is a good game and it's loved by a lot of people. But yeah, like, is that what you need to kind of like lead in with? Is that your strongest thing that you're saying? Is that going to be the apex of what is being sold to you?
I hope not. I mean, part of me still would, like Jonesy and I were discussing the possibility of this earlier. Like, part of me hopes that Sony and Jeff, were happy to have The Last of Us Part 1 close Summer Game Fest. If there's a similar deal to squeeze a little bit of our boy Kratos in at Gamescom, then I'll be a very happy bunny.
Mate, I'll do you one better.
Death Stranding.
Because we know its first ever gameplay editing. That sly bastard.
Kojima's been editing, yeah. Death Stranding got its first ever gameplay reveal at the first ever Gamescom opening night live. So, and yeah, you're right. Like, Kojima is very public about the fact he's editing. He's like, is he going to be editing something for Christmas? Like, probably not. There's still the weird leaked game that everyone knows exists, but we haven't seen
Overdose?
Yet. Overdose, yeah. The cloud-based horror game starring Margaret Qualley that you play on a phone. Fuck, I don't fucking know, like, what a weird piece of shit that is, but I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be... It's basically what I'm saying is that June is such a rush. It's easy to be mistaken and think that the preview cycle is over and we're prepped for Q4, but there are a lot of major games that still consider August a part of their, hey, like, getting people ready for the pre-order cycle and all of that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Good old God of War. I just want it to be good, man. And I think it will be. Like, it's not what I'm saying about, like, Breath of the Wild 2, like I do have my concerns, but I think they're going to pull it out of the bag.
I think it'll be good.
Yeah.
I think it'll be good. I think compared to the first one, I think it will.
It can't make the same impact. Like, it's lost that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way of putting it. It's gonna. Yeah, that's. But I suppose in some ways that's almost a positive in some sense. Like, we would all hate it if it came out and was like the original trilogy. You'd all go, "What have they done?" But we want more of what they did in the first one. But yeah, like as you said, it won't make the same sort of impact.
I kind of feel with God of War. Maybe this is how I'm thinking of it. I kind of feel that with like Ragnarok, they're not going to reinvent the wheel too much from God of War 2018.
But they're using the same level, like, or the same world, aren't they? They're just adding,
and adding to it and iterating on it. Whereas I feel with like everything I've heard about Breath of the Wild 2 is like, oh, you're going to go into the sky because that worked out so fucking well with Skyward Sword, and there's going to be like time manipulation and shit. And I hear shit like that, and maybe from other developers it doesn't worry me so much, but when I hear it from Nintendo, it does kind of concern me. Like I've been on the record before saying like, I've got a love-hate relationship with Zelda that usually lands on the hate side of things, despite my best efforts. But Breath of the Wild was that perfect fucking zenith of it, that really just kind of took off. And you talk about not being able to have the same impact as what Breath of the Wild did, absolutely. But I just feel that like Nintendo are too much in the case of saying like, we've got all these fucking crazy ideas and we're going to just put them in and
but Nintendo
is
usually
going to strike twice then. I
think it could.
I have my doubts. I hope it does. Don't get me wrong. Like
the more I hear about Nintendo and the way they operate, the more I'm just firm in the belief that they are a baffling company. And when you hear stories like, did you guys read the Game Byte report the other day on the 1-2 Switch sequel? The other day, it was like a month or two ago. There's a fully made, a fully developed, fully finished sequel to 1-2 Switch.
Yeah, it's called 3-4 Switch.
It's not actually, but
low hanging fruit. Give it to me.
Yeah. No, I was just saying because Jonesy didn't pull a face, so I was like making sure that Jonesy knew that was a joke. Helping Jonesy register the humour.
I guess it was.
Yeah, I think Jonesy's just tired, dude.
All right. What I was going to say though, Jonesy, is it's a fully developed, fully finished, ready to ship, ready to release product that is tested so badly with like test audiences that they don't know what to do with it. So they're just like,
Oh,
we've made a game. We're not putting it out like this. So we're just
Wow,
kind
and
of
after how bad 1-2 Switch was, that's impressive.
well, yeah,
See,
that's
that is the more-
apparently this is
not
somehow
put it
even
out.
worse.
That's
but
the
they're
more
doing
baffling thing about Nintendo is that they looked at 1-2 Switch and thought to themselves, we should make a sequel to this.
But like you think about like I know you've got a love-hate relationship with Zelda, Chris, but you look at like whether it's like look at Mario for example, whether it's a direct sequel in the form of Galaxy 2, which I don't need to talk to you about, or Odyssey, which I remember watching that trailer for Odyssey, the one where it ends with a T-Rex wearing Cappy, and I was like, they're doing too much. Like they've tried to do something special and different, and they've blown it. And I played the game, and I was so wrong.
Yeah,
like there is a Nintendo magic, and I think the vibe I get from Breath of the Wild 2 is that I think a version of Breath of the Wild 2 could have come out already, and the reason it hasn't is because like let's do right by this.
Yeah, maybe.
I hope. So that's my optimism for you.
Well, time will tell, fellas, and not at the end of this year, but I'm pretty sure we'll hear about Breath of the Wild 2 this year, but obviously not the release because it's been pushed. But yeah, we should be hopefully like a new trailer, something. Come on,
nice,
Nintendo Direct, give us some love. But fellas, we're approaching the 2-hour mark. There's another story that we got there, which is basically a Tekken 8 has been teased. Cool. I love Tekken. There's another one coming. It's been 7 years since Tekken 7 has come out. So, fair play. It's about time. Do we need to say more than that? Should we sign off?
I mean, it was a weird teaser, but
It was a weird teaser, but you know what? I'm a world where there's another Tekken is a world that's worth living in. I'll say that much. Especially because I know that I would enjoy Tekken, and after Tekken comes Soul Calibur, and that's bang up my alley.
I kind of hate Tekken, I must admit. Like, because do you know why? Because Tekken 3 took up like the entirety of my final year at university.
Don't I know it? Yeah.
And
Dude, it's because of Tekken 3 that I found out what carpal tunnel syndrome was.
right. Do you know the worst thing about that though? It was just me playing my housemate. We just played each other Tekken 3 constantly.
Yeah, because there's no online.
There was no online, but I'm still no good at Tekken. So it's like I spent a year playing because that's the thing. Like to get better at something, you have to play a better opponent. But we were just playing each other, so we weren't getting any better. Like we just played a lot of Tekken, and then it got to the end of the year, and it was like probably should have studied.
Yeah, where's your Tekken 3 now? What has it done for you in 2022? Nothing.
I mean, can't monetize that.
Maybe something. You did end up working in a games adjacent environment for a few years.
That's true.
Hey, it was nothing compared to my first year. No, my second year when I was playing Prince of Persia 2 or 3.
Oh, one of the worst ones.
Oh, do me a favor.
Wow.
But
that's right. They can't all be as good as Prince of Persia 2008 or whichever year it was.
You
cell shaded Prince.
Before Alex Jones burst to fucking gets an aneurysm. Yeah.
Jamie was 3.5. He doesn't know what he was talking about.
I just think it's worth acknowledging that a good game is a good game, and Prince of Persia 2008 was a damn good game that saved a slowly failing franchise that was just struggling for new ideas. And I mean, just
struggling so hard, and they're remaking it a full 15 years later.
Yeah, and realizing that it's still shit and they can't put it out. Destruct Toys 9.5 out of 10.
Shit.
Oh, cheeky 8 out of 10 from games. 8.7 out of 10 from game trailers. Just what a rich world this game was able to create.
That was pre-Gamergate, so all the games journalists were all dodgy then.
They're all
just positive reviews across.
They're all on the payroll.
They're all on the payroll.
IGN. Do you know what's interesting? IGN UK and IGN US really disagreed with each other on Prince of Persia 2008. IGN UK gave it a 9.4 out of 10. IGN US though gave it a 9.3 out of 10.
That is outrageous. That is outrageous.
They couldn't see eye to eye on how good one of the best games of the generation was.
Fair play. I'm just going to.
He's just going to cut you out of his life.
I mean, I think it was one of those things though, Chris, where it's like
just blocking on Twitter.
Anything would be good when you just finished playing Prince of Persia: The Two Thrones. Like the only way is up, basically, is what I'm saying.
Oh my god! How? Okay, can I ask a serious question? How are you this spicy at the end of the fucking podcast?
I just drank a Monster.
Fair enough.
I guess. I don't know. And also, it's Jonesy spice. And like, if you ask me to wind up Jonesy about Prince of Persia, tiredness knows no meaning.
What did they give? What did you say? IGN gave it 9
9.3 and 9.4.
Wow, so they're saying it's as good as Red Dead Redemption 2. That is actually impressive, to be fair. So
I'd probably go one step further and say, like, with the benefit of hindsight, obviously, Prince of Persia 2008 coming out 10 years earlier, like Prince of Persia 2008, arguably a better game than Red Dead Redemption 2.
I think I'd have to agree with you.
I'd
Prince
agree
of
with
Persia
that, to be fair.
Prince of Persia 2008 is so good that it made Jonesy forget that they made another emo Prince of Persia game 2 years later called The Forgotten Sands to tie in with the Jake Gyllenhaal movie, and no one played it because they were like, "Well, this isn't cel shaded anymore. No thanks."
But that was wasn't that like some weird, like halfway thing? Was it on what console was that even on?
It was on.
PlayStation?
It's a very easy. No, it was on like a PS3 and 3. It's a very easy one to forget. It came out in 2010, and it was basically like 2008 came out. It was cel shaded and was a slightly different thing. Then they were like,
it was
"Let's
terrible.
do the movie's coming out. Let's do another one that's like more like the original."
To
trilogy.
capitalize upon the release, yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't. The thing is, it wasn't bad. It was good. It wasn't as good as the Two Thrones or Warrior Within, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Warrior Within and Two Thrones were good games.
You know what is amazing is I opened the door to us just ending this podcast at a decent time and slammed it back in my face, fellas. It's fine.
Welcome back to. Wait, let me think.
You got to say welcome to the suck.
Prince of Persia, I'm trying like lasagna. Prince of Persia.
Prince of
Parmesan,
Parmigiano.
Prince of Parmigiano. Prince
of Parmigiano. Kinda works. Maybe.
Prince of Persia d'Orange.
Shoot d'Orange. Okay.
I know.
All right. Fine.
I always go French with it, but I don't know what to do. We've had chocolat, pan au chocolat, and jus d'orange.
Oh, Prince of Persia, the two cones.
Prince of Pomme de Terre.
Prince of Pomme de Terre.
I'm ending this fellas. I'm just cutting it off. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. If you're listening on a podcast platform of your choice, thank you so much for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to support us on Patreon, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
See ya.